get it on my set. I gotta get it on my set.
The world of BMW Virtual Motorsports lands back at the World Centre of Racing to kick off what is another year of electric racing here on iRacing.com. Hello everyone, welcome along to RaceSpotTV, to the iRacing Esports Network as we get set for multi-class chaos as we welcome you to the BMW M SIM Cup, BMW's virtual motorsports offering for 2023. My name is Arjuna Kankipani, delighted to be alongside once again in the BMW commentary booth with the one, the only Lewis McLeod, and don't forget you can follow along with live timing and scoring when we get into the race itself by heading to racespot.wtf/BMW. Lewis, it's been a while since we've been together for virtual BMW motorsports action, not just because you missed BMW Sim Live at the end of 2022, but we've had a bit of a delay. A month later than we would have wanted to start with this BMW M SIM Cup, but that's because we've said goodbye to the single class competition that we've had now for 3 years. We welcome the BMW M V8 Hybrid to this BMW M SIM Cup.
Yeah, for the few years that we've done this, obviously we used the M8, we've used the M4. We are still using the M4. I say multi-class racing for the first time in the BMW M SIM Cup, and I'm all for it. I like the idea of that slightly added bit of drama. Also, it makes it a bit more open to those coming through. We said this as well throughout the competition, is that this is open to everyone to come and take part in. There are multiple splits later on in the season. We'll see less splits, but it means that for a lot of these teams, it's their first time to make a debut in Split 1 on the broadcast and all that lot. To have it in multi-class just makes it a bit more open, a bit more approachable, and if anything, quite a lot more terrifying, because let's be honest, those hybrids are pretty quick.
We're going to talk a lot, I think, about strategy still this year. Those that have watched the last 3 years on this BMW virtual motorsports journey will know that in these 2-hour sprints it was all about fuel saving in hour 1 and then going as hard as you could in the second hour. Don't think we're in for that something too dissimilar here in the GT3s. Of course, GTPs will go about 40 minutes on the fuel depending on what tracks we're at, so still looking pretty equally at 3 stints. The question will be, which driver do you place in for 2 stints versus the the one stint. So let's take a quick look at our schedule, where we're going. One TBD later in the season that I know has a lot of people excited about what that might mean for new tracks available on iRacing. But we start in the Sunshine State, Lewis, first here at Daytona, and then over to Sebring.
Yeah, got a lot of great tracks. And of course, Road America, Nürburgring, Watkins Glen, some staples we've had before in the calendar. Spa's going to be an interesting one. Obviously, everyone loves their own bit of Spa. Fuji, we've had some racing in VCO competitions in the BMW M Hybrid when we did VCO Pro Sim Infinity. It was actually an awful lot of fun. Road Atlanta, I think that's a highlight for the pair of us. We absolutely love the roller coaster that is Atlanta. Road Atlanta. And then rounding out the season, of course, in Suzuka. That's going to be tricky. It's going to be tight, and yeah, when you've got a championship to play for, prize money per round, that's going to get a little bit dicey, especially that multi-class stuff, because if you're in one of those hybrids, you're going through some GT3 traffic, going up through the S's, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. But always, the season has to start at Daytona.
Yeah, no, it always starts at Daytona. Don't forget to stay tuned on the BMW Motorsport social media channel so you can stay connected with where we're going in that penultimate round of the championship. And that is one of the other major differences in 2023. Unfortunately, no BMW Sim Live at the end of the year, so drivers aren't fighting for qualification to that year-end event. Instead, it's about just under $50,000 in prize money to be paid out over 10 regular season races. Just like last year, Lewis, points are scored as a team, but you're classified as a driver, which means that we'll be tracking driver standings over the course of the 10 races. Prize money still on the line, tots up to about $6,000 per race. You said earlier it's a public race. Anyone can join in, and as long as they make the top split, they are competing for the prize money. It's not a bad incentive to go racing on a Sunday morning.
No, like I said, I was having a couple of chats with a few drivers yesterday being like, oh, you can't take part in this tomorrow. Yeah, it's open. You don't need to sign up 3 months in advance and go through some process where they have to go, no, you're in, you're not, you're in, where's the entry fee, where's this? You just come along, money is on the table for anyone in top split to go and grab. And like I say, absolutely love that. And like I say, it's not exactly a bad amount of money to be taken from a day's work, from a couple of hours of racing.
No, it's pretty nice, and of course the team at iRacing helping to back all of this as well. Let's talk a bit about 2022 and the journey that we went on. Again, it started on the high banks where Gianni Vecchio, for the third year in a row, came out on top in what was a photo finish. It was a great way to start the year off. Not long later, just a handful of weeks later, over to the Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, even a 5 seconds time penalty could not stop Reiner Talvar and Phil Denez from grabbing victory, and then they did it again at Sebring the next time out. It took to the last lap, it took to a physical pass over Patrick Holtzman for Phil Denez to grab the Zebras their second victory. Then a trip over to Germany to the Nürburgring, and it was Kova's black and red stealth machine that was on top for the first time that season, not the last time. Then finally, it took until Watkins Glen for Maximilian Benecke and Patrick Holtzman to come out on top. But once they were at the top of the standings, they decided to do it again next time when we went over to the Ardennes Mountain in what was a pretty frenetic race at Spa-Francorchamps, again with some new colors on the car, Benecke and Holtzman on top. Back over to Germany and back with Kova in their winning way. Slightly different driver lineup. Unfortunately, though, even with the 2 victories on the season, Kova struggling to get drivers locked into BMW Sim Live. Not an issue for the Apex Racing team. They conquered first at the Barber Motorsports Park to start off what was a string of victories. Then over at Silverstone, where we saw the Apex team working together to maximize points for BMW Sim Live. And then all roads ended at Suzuka, where Kevin Ellis Jr. became the first driver in series history to win 3 races in a row and claimed his spot along with the rest of the Apex Racing team spot at BMW Sim Live. And when we arrived at the end of year celebration, Maximilian Benecke was not to be defeated this time, becoming your 2022 BMW Sim Live champion. And that brings us all around again to do it at the Daytona International Speedway to start our year off once again, Lewis. We just finished the iRacing Daytona 24. We just watched the Rolex 24. We watched the BMW MV8 Hybrid make its debut. And now we get to see what we're in store for in this 2-hour sprint.
Yeah, at least in this competition, this race has always been a red line race. It's always been that focus towards them. Of the 3 times we've done this, in 2022, in 2021 and 2020, it has been a red line, not only a red line victory, but a red line 1-2 in this race. Of course, Gianni Vecchio finishing in second in that 2020 race, and then in 21 and 22 taking back-to-back victories. It is red line territory, but as we enter this slightly new era of BMW competition in esports with the M Hybrid, multi-class racing, I don't really... it's as open as it can be.
One thing that we know for sure is it's not going to be a red line 1 and 2 once again in 2023. No red line entries, but still a stacked field of competition. One thing that you noted before we went live, Lewis, is the fact that we do have multiple entries from some of the major teams here today. Again, like I said, we've got a stacked lineup, and it's stacked in a slightly different way to what some may have expected.
Yeah, we do actually have a red line car, by the way.
Oh, we do?
It is in the GT3s. It's Lulham and Pinto who will be taking to that one in the number 20. So we do have some. We do have a VRS Coanda car as well with Pash Gergis and Castro Lado. But like you say, when it comes to the majority of this field, you are talking about teams like the Apex Racing team and how much they're focused on getting a good result from this race. And BS Competition and the BS Turner got a couple of cars from Duel, got quite a few from Race Clutch, 4 cars from Race Clutch. I was chatting to John Bennett, who'll be racing for those today, about how many cars they've got across all the splits. I think it's 8 cars that Race Clutch have entered into this event, which will be obviously across quite a few of the splits. We've got a few SRC Movano Courses, Team BGZ. There's a lot of teams that are represented with multiple cars, and kind of I'm all for that, but it does mean that for some of those cars are coming like Netrex and like Impulse that are coming with just a single car entry. Well, they might be in a little bit of trouble later on when no one wants to work with them.
We're getting LMDH times coming in first. You can see them on the left side of the screen. 1:35.14 provisional benchmark laid down once again by Pedro Sanchez Albert, who has really picked this car up quite quickly. We saw him impressive in qualifying in VCO Pro Sim Infinity at the end of 2022 and carried that form forward pretty rapid in qualifying for the iRacing Daytona 24, as well as was John Bennett, who sits second for Race Clutch. Valtteri Alander for BS Turner in that split liveried machine currently sits in what is the 3rd position. We'll wait for the GTD times, the GT3 times I should say, to come on in. There is red line with Lulham and Pinto behind the wheel. Already starting to get some times in from the likes of Ricardo Castro-Lado. We're going back in time, it seems like, because Castro-Lado was paired up with Pash Gergis. It's like being back in the 2019 World Championship days here, Lewis.
Yeah, I know. It's like I say, it's bizarre times. Obviously, they've picked the wrong one because the number's in the wrong spot. We won't talk about that too much. Don't worry about it. We'll ignore it. You can see Lulham coming round. I'm liking the fact that LMDH and GT3 are both very competitive, right? It's kind of one of those things when you have the new class being the LMDH, everyone kind of goes, oh, right, well, we're all going to take the LMDH because we want the overall win. And so then GT3 gets kind of left behind. Absolutely not the case today. Like you say, you've got Team Redline, Lulham and Pinto. That is a scary lineup. And then, of course, you've got Arnage Competition Pink as opposed to Arnage Competition Green. I don't really know. And I did see that gap, 1,000th of a second. It is tight towards the front. Now gets to 100 to Girano Esports. Take at least a provisional pole position ahead of Obsidian. Yeah,
this is going to be fun, isn't this? You've got 4 cars split by 400ths of a second. That's the next Netrex Grand Prix team electing to bail on what would be their second timed lap. Now 5 cars split by just over 1/10 of a second. Make that 5 car split by 600ths of a second because they are just trying to prove us wrong. How close is it going to be? Well, I think qualifying time is always difficult to judge. It's all going to be about the traffic management, especially coming through this, the Le Mans bus stop, the most crucial part of the track for traffic management, Lewis.
Yeah, it's going to be a tricky one through there for sure. And like you say, when it comes to the normal race that we'd see around here, you're talking about going at it a little bit more cautiously when it comes to the 24-hour race. Obviously, yeah, still go for it like crazy. But in this, it's just a 2-hour race, a single 2-hour race. Prize me on table, yes, but some points, fair enough. But they're only focused on this one race and starting out in the best way possible. A couple of improvements there coming up towards the line, although not from the Arnage Competition pink car. BS Competition a 10th clear of Apex, and now Urano, who go up into 3rd as Elvis Rankin puts the Apex Racing Team 99 into 4th. If I remember correctly, it was the car that started this race on pole position with Alejandro Sanchez behind the wheel.
Yeah, we did have an interesting race last year at the very front. It would not have been a red line domination if Alejandro Sanchez had not slid through his box in his pit stop, and would have been the bridge between not just himself and those front 2 red line machines, but an additional Apex Racing car as well. So it's going to be quite fun to see how it strikes out. For a moment, BS Competition were 1 and 2 in GT3, but Reina Talvar, after getting pole in the BMW bank car for the iRacing Daytona 24, back on top in qualifying here at the Daytona International Speedway. A full 10th of a second, it should be said, quicker than the Apex Racing Team car. Look at the margins at LMDH, then look at the margins in GT3.
Literally was about to point out the same thing. It's a 10th between 1st and 2nd in GT3, and then it's a 10th between 1st and 6th in LMDH. Incredibly tight margin. Of course, a lot of those teams would have put in an awful lot of work to the LMDH a few weeks ago when it came to getting prepared for the Daytona 24, and some of those might not have prepared quite as much for the GT3 as have had to prepare fully for this event. That can cause some issues, but right now, Urano Esports Data Group, they are the team to beat. But I wouldn't necessarily say that the victory is theirs, because it is way, way, way too tight. Yeah,
we've got a long 2 hours ahead of us. It is going to fly past, don't get me wrong, but it's going to feel like an eternity, especially once we get into that traffic management part of the race. Do remember, live timing and scoring available if you head to RaceSpot.wtf/BMW. My name is Arjuna Kangipati, back alongside with Lewis McLeod as we are ready to go once again in the world of BMW Motorsports. Thanks for joining us on the iRacing Esports Network and on RaceSpotTV, but qualifying is in the books. It's time to show you how they're going to line up for the 2-hour blast around the Daytona International Speedway for round 1 of the multi-class action that is BMW M SIM Cup. It's the 4th year that BMW have partnered up with iRacing, and we're going to have an exciting year with $50,000 on the line across of 10 different races. It's Vlad Kimichev, though, that punches his way to the front of the field with 1:30.481, enough for Urano Esports Data Group to grab the pole position, but look at the margins behind. 100th back, Pedro Sanchez-Albert for Obsidian Racing. 300th back, Josh Ladd for Williams Esports Fanatec. Mike Partington then just a further 5,000ths behind in the sister Williams Esports car. Eduardo Leo for SRC Movano, 600ths back. Then you go back to Yao Vaz in 6th position, a full 10th of a second back. Then the margins start to get, well, momentarily bigger. Valtteri Alander, 7th for the BS Turner split liveried machine with Race Clutch in 8th, 9th, and then Netrex Grand Prix represented in 10th. You'll see a handful of these BMW factory liveries, not confusing at all for us in the commentary booth. Pure Sims and Urano 11th and 12th. Pure Sims, of course, coming off a top 5 finish in the iRacing Daytona 24. Another Race Clutch entry with Marcus Deck behind the wheel in 13th has SRC Movano for company. HS Racing has the Patrick Wolf entry, of course, now that he has left Veloce. Going to be interested to see who he's paired up with. Race Clutch, Maniti, and Hydro Race Geodesic Racing through the front 9 rows. Riley, Obsidian, Apex, Wave, Door, and the Benzo Racing number 71 make up those front 12 rows, and we have a handful of cars still left to talk about. Let's go over to the GT3s, though, of course. Reina Talvar back on top, but he's got Apex for company on the outside of the grid. Luke McEwen will line up second with Luke Akita in the Urano Esports HP 193rd. Elvis Rankin 4th for the Apex Racing Team number 99. With BS Competition, it has Oscari Rene in the Finnish flying machine, alongside Gael Valero to make up those front 3 rows. Back in the 7th position is Florian Lebigra representing R8G Esports. Team 7 and Matti Sieppula behind the wheel with Damon Woods, Nicholas Rubelar for Dora Esports and Arnage, the rest of the top 10. Bench drivers get off the bench to make an appearance here today alongside the Valkyrie Experience Competition lineup, with Texaco Racing by TK and Gustavo Ariel 13th. U-Race BR Redragon by Reich in 14th position, bit of a Brazilian rivalry there. Steinbraten in a new team in 15th, with Redline all the way back in 16th. Altus locking out row number 9. We'll scroll through the rest of the names. As we said, Lewis, it is a stacked field. The margins are so tight. It's very difficult to have any sort of expectation or predictions for what we've got in store.
No, but I will still do my best because I've got to say, shout out to Luca Keita, the lone Urano, up in the GTD category, among all of the Apex Racing team and BS competition. Very easy to pick that one out. In the LMDH, I don't know which way to go. I'm going to go for one of the Williams cars, a very strong round here that we've seen. In GTD, I'm going to go Team Redline from all the way back there.
Ooh, bold from Lewis. We are back in the Sunshine State where BMW Virtual Motorsports picks up once again. It's time to go racing for multi-class action in the BMW M SIM Cup. We're green flag racing at Daytona, and already the LMDHs are underway here. The GTD stormed their way towards the starting line as well. No split class start, remember. LMDHs funnel through the opening corner, safely being able to navigate their way through, but this is where it will all start to check up, and already one car off the road in the form of an SRC Movano car, but the rest of the GTPs, Lewis, work their way through safely.
Yeah, got a couple of side-by-sides, of course, going up towards the kink. You got Dom Hoffman trying to hang it around the outside. You can see in the background there, just trying to keep it through the kink. Single file up towards the front. We saw them down towards T1 going single file with a BS competition car leading the Apex train that was on the inside, using that as a bit of a power car. Urana getting dropped backwards a few positions as you kind of expect in that spot, but even further than even they would have expected, behind even Ascari Rene now to 6th spot.
Yeah, the LMDH is already back onto the banking. Not much separation at this point in time, but of course we're going to see them split up as we get to those first passes through traffic. Track position never the most important in most races, but in a race as short as this, just 2 hours, that first pass through traffic where you will get split up by half a second, it will very much make the difference as to how the rest of the race plays out, how drivers approach the fuel saving over the course of the stints. Like we mentioned earlier, Lewis, about an hour for the GTDs, definitely not getting to around 40 minutes or so in the GTPs.
Yeah, they're, like you say, aiming for that kind of margin to do it on a two-stop race, but with it being a two-stop race, being a two-driver race, how do you kind of play that? You've got to, at that point, in the GT3s, it's quite easy, and it has been in the BMW competition before, where you split it 50-50. In this, not the case. Got plenty of side-by-side going through that first corner, again, as you would expect. Obsidian getting past SRC Movano Corsa Verde, and again, a couple more dives coming down into the International Horseshoe. You can see one there of those BMW colour, very easy to pick on. That'll be one of the race clutches, I'm absolutely sure of it, because no livery on theirs. And look at this in GT3.
Yeah, we got a bit of a battle in towards turn 1. BS Competition and the Apex Racing team not making it the easiest for us. Blue and white, also a popular set of colours. Reina Talbot will be lucky this time that he did not get the bump from behind into turn number 1 like he did in the iRacing Daytona 24. And his teammate Ascari Rene is trying to close up and work together at the very front of the field. The one place that you do not want to be in this GT3 field is at the very front, punching the hole in the air and towing everyone else around you and allowing them to do the fuel saving. Got to make sure you work together. Rene now up to 4th.
Yeah, it's a good move from Ascari Rene to get past Gaio Valero there. I think it was Gaio Valero anyway. Just making a little bit of a spot up, nothing major, but it was tidy.
There goes Reina Talvar from the race lead. BS Competition has a spinner as they work back onto the banking, and that has caused chaos. I have no idea what happened. I just saw the Reina Talvar machine going around with puffs of smoke, but drama at the front of GTD.
Okay, so the reason why we're confused by that is because that's a kind of spin that me and Arjuna would pull off. Not necessarily drivers at this kind of level unless it was assisted. Very easy to assist that one, of course, as you're heading back out towards NASCAR 1 and 2. But that is a very, very odd incident. Let's see.
Does get some help.
Definitely assisted.
But was he maybe a little bit slower? Oh, and he just that is some hard hits after the fact as well. And the new damage model getting a bit of a workout here. We'll get the run all the way in towards this moment, and we'll jump on board. It looks a lot more innocuous from that angle, I've got to say.
It's not a good look for the Apex Racing team, I'll say that. I mean, it's so easy to do when you're on board, you're not quite sure exactly where the front of your car is, but he definitely pushes the Reina Talvar around. But there's going to be some 3 wide here either way. Apex Racing team, either side of a BS competition. Very scary indeed. Ascari Rene trying to slot the middle and get around the outside through the International Horseshoe. At the moment, the advantage is being held by Luke McHugh and Ascari Rene, Elvis Rankin, and then Gail Valero. Apex Racing team all over the BS competition right now.
Yeah, and it's a 5-car breakaway. Luca Kita's hanging strong with them, but then it's 2 seconds back to the bench drivers number 3 that are already up 5 positions over the course of the start of this race. And don't forget that if Ascari Rene gets passed by the 99 and the 97, Lewis, we know what we're in for. It's going to be a bumped drafting fest for the Apex Racing team as they try and pull away for the 3rd time in as many months here at Daytona. Check back in with the GTPs, the LMDHs very quickly, by the way, because it's been somewhat exciting there. Vlad Kimichev trying to run away to some degree, but Pedro Sanchez-Albert has been able to get back past Josh Ladd in the Williams Esports Fanatec entry and now trying to close the 1.2 second advantage to the front of the field.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to describe where the breakaway really is, because you'd say that Urano Esports data group, they have pulled away, but that 1.2 second margin, if you start working together a little bit, you know, not trying to race too hard, you can close that margin down. It's when it gets back over to 1.5 to 2 seconds, that's when the margin's a little bit too big. But even at this kind of level, if you get a decent exit coming out onto NASCAR 1 and 2, you're close enough to take the advantage of the slipstream. My goodness, Ascari Rene was trying to slot in behind there. That was scary.
Yeah.
My word.
And I think, to be fair, I'm a big Ascari Rene fan. I think that's likely more on him because the 99... Elvis Rankin is running the white line and cannot do much else other than run the white line. We managed to survive. Luke McEwen and Gaio Valera now slot in 3rd and 4th positions. It's going to be McEwen back down the inside of Ascari Rene through the first of the hairpins in the infield. GTD is a lot more feisty than I would have anticipated. We said, we know the story of most of these races in GT3. 1 hour of fuel saving, 1 hour of attacking. Not what we're seeing here today.
No, and I think what we're also, we've not really caught too much of what's happening behind in this pack, but you're absolutely right. I mean, let's say, for example, you're a team like Team Redline, a team that we would expect to be towards the front. You're Diogo Pinto, you're in Chris Lulham's ear right now. They are well aware as to what is going on at the front. And I'm absolutely sure that Pinto will be saying, get through the field as fast as you can, because the Apex Racing team have 3 cars towards the front, and you know exactly as you said, if they get line astern, they're going to work together and pull away from everyone. Once that happens, if you're down the order, there is no way you're coming back. And whilst the Apex Racing team are looking very strong in the GT3 category, considerably less so within the LMDHs. Owen Carroll behind the wheel of the 199, running down in 19th position.
Yeah, it's been pretty crazy. Don't forget, we do have live stewards for this top split of competition. They will have some post-race penalties to pass down to any drivers they judge as being on the naughty step. So
been a few of those today.
Yeah, it's going to be busy for Hugo Luis, Paul Smith and Randy Cheneth, that's for sure, just like it was for most of last year when it came to our live stewards having to stay on top of everything. Still have not got to the point where traffic is going to play a major part. You can see as the first of the LMDH runners works through the bus stop, they're coming onto the back of spots of it, well, single cars, but they still got about half a lap or so to go before they'll get into the major flow of the traffic. And from there, I have no doubt the intensity is going to be ratcheted up even further, Lewis. Just thinking back to what I saw in the iRacing Daytona 24, I didn't think they could be much more aggressive, but that was a 24-hour race. This is a 2-hour race.
I've always said this, there's a reason why in a race like this I would always take the higher category, and it's not because I think of myself as being that good. I'm certainly not, as Ascari Rene and Luke McEwen continue to battle it out, riding on board with Luca Kita, seeing all of that happening ahead and thinking, I'm just going to fuel save, to be perfectly honest. You lot can all battle it out. Ascari Rene, though, is doing a favour for the entirety of the pack by just trying to stop all 3 of these Apex Racing team cars from coming together, but it might well come to a close here as we head into NASCAR 1 and 2. Rene drops behind Luke McEwen, but ahead of Gaio Valero. But when you're in that higher category, you're the one that's making the decision. When you're in a GT3, especially when a few of those LMDHs come across this, they will split this group apart big time if this group isn't careful. And that's what they have to be a little bit aware of when those LMDHs get to them, that they are going to fly through without a care in the world about their battles.
And this is still where I think we should expect the most drama with the traffic to come in through that bus stop. As it's already started. Graham Saunders collects one of the Door Esports cars, or maybe it was the other way around. We'll have to grab a look at the replay to figure that one out. But check back in with GTDs, and bump drafting is becoming a thing. Meanwhile, GTP leaders have really closed on up as Vlad Kimichev has been checked up by the traffic. Here comes Pedro Sanchez-Albert.
Yeah, this is obviously this is good for the chance of the race. It's not very good for Vlad Kimichev, who built out that 1.2 second lead. Pedro Sanchez Albert now there, Josh Ladd there, Eduardo Leo as well. Also, this whole train will close up now, courtesy of this first pass through traffic. You can see how crazy this is heading through turn 2 through that kink up towards the international horseshoe. That's a big send though from Vlad Kimichev. Wow, that was scared. Nearly cleaned off the Team PGZ car as well. Valkyrie and Arnage competition just there on the outside. That was a terrifying moment, but look how much he's having to lift on the Wayframe car coming through the kink.
Yeah, they were side by side. They single-filed it out in the GT3s, allowed Kimichev to get back down the inside, but now 3 cars bumper to bumper at the very front of the prototype class and still trying to dice their way through the traffic as we work back towards the banking. Hook the left, rejoin the 2.5 miles of banking that we've got. John Bennett. Oh, chaos. Not just Bennett around. Another race clutch car involved in this one, Fraser Williamson, as there goes RAG being spun around. Welcome.
Goodness, hold the brakes, please.
Welcome to the BMW M SIM Cup.
Wow, that was not so good. Like I said, I was having a chat with Shredded Bennett a bit earlier on in the weekend, and like I said, has come back into this. He's been out on holiday climbing volcanoes and whatnot and enjoying life, but has come back to this race. I think he was pretty excited to get back involved in this car. That is not the way you would have wanted that one to go. Now down to the back of the LMDH field. Let's take a look, see what happened ahead.
So this was first with Graham Saunders in...
complete miscommunication.
Yeah, there's no one driver that can really take full responsibility for this one. This is more of one of those miscommunications. That can happen. It is easy for these sort of incidents to occur and just the small mistakes to happen. The BMW jinxed down for a second and split-second reaction. There's not much that Saunders can do.
No, like so Saunders is kind of expecting the BMW to come back onto the racing line. The BMW is trying to beat... I said BMW, there's a few of those out on track. The Dury sports car. You're expecting it to come back down to the racing line. It's kind of trying to stay out of all the LMDH's way. Complete miscommunication between the two. It is what it is. Unfortunately, you can talk through this one.
I have no idea what I'm going to say other than hold your brakes. Hold your brakes.
Was that BS competition that went into the BS Turner car that went into Bennett?
Here, we'll get a better look at it from here. No, it's behind them, isn't it, that it really happens. It's another BMW liveried car, which makes it very difficult to actually pick up who it was that got involved. But yeah, then John Bennett stranded, and then it was Florian Lebigra in the R8G car, wasn't it, that got... Oh, he didn't even get tagged from the inside. He got tagged from the outside.
Did Bennett get involved in another crash coming into 7?
It's possible. We'll try and get a look at some better angles.
Watch here is the... Oh, yeah.
It's just...
There's so much going on. I think he makes contact with the SSC Movana Corsa car coming through there.
Yeah, the Apex 199 definitely also gets involved.
Goodness me.
Madness. Madness, madness, madness.
Race Control are going to be very busy in the opening 12.5 minutes of this race.
Race Control are having to work for their paycheck here today. We'll put it that way. Top 4 in your LMDH are broken away to the tune of about 4 seconds. They're split by 1 second. Urano, Obsidian, Williams, SRC. So good to have 4 different teams represented at the very tip top of the field. Already your LMDH leaders have cycled past the GT3 leaders, where we do have now the Apex 1 and 2, BS Competition 3rd, and Apex 4th, Urano 5th. The gap behind them has somewhat come down as well, so don't totally discount the GT3s from closing in somewhat, but reality is now, with Apex 1 and 2, you'd expect them to work together and pull away like they've done so many times here at Daytona.
They almost actually got quite lucky there. Thankfully, it actually went back towards the Sky Arena, just courtesy of some of those cars coming through. You've got the Apex Racing team, LMDH coming through. Now that might split them up a little bit more. Sky Arena way out wide. That is a concerning gap from the top 2 back. I know obviously you're sat there watching at home thinking maybe not.
It's done.
But that is a huge, having it over a second with 2 Apex Racing Team cars ahead and with another Apex Racing Team behind BS Competition. If Apex Racing Team are only focused on this race, which of course they will be, they will have the number 97 being driven by Gal Valera now, just mess about with the Sky Arena for a couple of laps and just basically remove them from the competition of Elvis Rankin and Luke McEwen. It's not illegal, it's not dirty, it's not nothing, it's just tactics.
I'll go one further and say they're not going to even need to worry about doing that, to be completely honest. I genuinely think the gap that the Apex duo at the front now have, with the bump drafting, with the amount of experience that they have doing this strategy to pull away. Yeah. It is done. It is dusted. Got word, by the way, that there are some major technical issues right now in Italy. A lot of people having some issues with internet connections over there. And so it has affected a handful of participants, not just across of the iRacing servers, but in this specific race as well. Michele Costantini, in that Apex 199 car, sent me a message saying, we wanted to qualify, but I couldn't qualify. And so Owen Carl had to jump in for the race start as well. So just keep that in mind. There are a handful of these teams and drivers still trying to salvage some sort of a day out of what could have been a much more difficult day. I will say, though, for Apex at the front of this GT3 field, Lewis, they're on track to, knock on wood, make it 4 in a row in class, which is a continued first in the BMW Sim competitions. However, no Kevin Ellis Jr. means a streak of 3 in a row technically will come to an end.
Yeah, but like I say, Apex Racing Team is starting to dominate within the GT3. I would say starting to. They're just finding their form in this class. I just want to say, by the way, when it comes to that Italian internet thing, that is not the first time I've seen that. In Season 8 of the Virtual Endurance Championship, which is in 2000, this was in 2016, might have been 15 at this point. No, it was definitely 16. And we had a race at Sebring. This is on R-Factor 2, but we had, there was, I think, 7 teams with Italian drivers that all just disconnected from the race straight away. And I remember thinking to our teammates, being like, what just happened? And obviously you then Google it immediately and be like, what's going on? And it's like whatever ISP it was just down. It just went down immediately. And so any Italian in the race just got disconnected straight away. It happens. Yeah, that's the wide world thing. We had it in the NASCAR Coke series. We did. Not long ago, didn't we? Was it 2 years ago? A year ago? Yeah. No, I mean, it's not uncommon. Knock on wood, I have not been affected by it ever, which is just really funny if this broadcast goes down. I was going to say, it's just asking for trouble, or it's asking for one of our channels to go down. Which has definitely never happened in the history of the BMW Sim GT Cup before. Okay, for those wondering about the nomenclature, 2020 BMW Sim 120, 2021, 2022, BMW Sim GT Cup, 2023. It's been rechristened the BMW M SIM Cup. It's all the same competition, just with a different name. Yep, which it's not the most confusing that I've had to deal with in sim racing. So it's absolutely fun. we have some pretty confusing names in sim racing. Oh yeah, and then you've just got some teams which constantly change names, which is really good fun. And then you've got some teams which are stuck with a name for so long that when they remove a certain name from it, like Triton, for example, or DB1. It's still even now like it's DB1 Triton. I'm like, no, it's just Triton. There's no DB1 in there. You can't help it. This is where they're idiots. Yeah, there's a couple of teams that do have to be careful with this. For example, Altus Esports. For the longest time, it was Logitech G-Altus Esports. It's not Logitech G-Altus Esports anymore. It's just Altus Esports. Yeah, so. Which I can't get out of that one. No, I know. Trust me, I've had the issue too. Then you've got it's no longer the Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing Team. It's the Hydro Race Geodesic Racing Team. Again, going to take a while for that one to really have sunk in properly. Race Control has already been busy, by the way. The 89, so that's the Reign of Talvar machine, who is already retired from the race, unfortunately, gets a 15-second penalty. Now, this may be a separate incident from the one that we actually saw take him out, because the description here was entering the oval, the 89 gets into the back of the 99, who was the class leader, and at the time that Reina Talvar went around, he was definitely the class leader. Is that the wrong way around? It's either the wrong way around or it's a different incident that we missed. That is entirely the entirely. I mean, you're the broadcaster. It's also very, very possible at the end of the day. Like, there's been so much going on, Lewis. We could have missed all of it. That is why I didn't read it out, because I was looking at it being like, is that the right way round? Because I was like, the 99 was like, it's guaranteed Surely that's a penalty because he spun Reina Talbot around. Maybe we just looked at it wrong. I mean, let's be honest with the liveries. The one other thing that we hadn't thought of is that we could have just mixed up the liveries, which is very easy to do because BS Competition and Apex Racing Team look identical in these races. Well, I'm kind of glad they're now separated by 3.8 seconds. It makes my life a little bit easier in the commentary booth.
To be fair, BS Competition decided to try and make it a little bit easier for us because
I do like this livery.
you got the Finnish flag on one side of the car. Makes it quite simple.
Yeah, but what colour is the Finnish flag?
True. It's a different shade of blue. It's a different shade of blue.
Oh dear. Ah, goodness me. Just this is it was the perfect time for the Apex Racing Team to take part in only just do the LMDH class, and then BS Competition could just do the GT, and then we're sorted. We're done.
Yes.
We're done.
But the problem is, of course, BS Competition, one of our official BMW teams. We saw them enter a BMW MV8 hybrid in the iRacing Daytona 24 with the BS Turner split livery. So, yeah, no, we're going to have to say one of you guys in this class, one of you guys in the other class. Fortunately, It's not an issue with Urano and Redline anymore because Redline are no longer black and red. They're more like bluish red, bluey and red. But yeah, I think we are.
Yeah, but it's so dark, it's basically black.
Yeah, but you can tell the difference.
Yep. No, I will. No, do you know how I know I will? Because I saw the picture of Diogo Pinto getting ready for a certain other competition yesterday with a different German manufacturer. And I remember seeing a photograph being like, has he switched to Red Bull? I was like, oh, it's the red line. Yeah. No, it genuinely, it caught me out for a second. It's that dark blue. It's got the red on it, and then it's got a Red Bull logo on the side. Obviously, that is definitely that is definitely black.
Yes. No, it's the way the sun bounces off it with the spec map as well.
Exactly.
You got some new patterns on this car as well for 2023, so there are a few changes to that livery compared to the one that Maximilian Benecke took.
I like it.
I like it too. I think it looks pretty sharp, and of course the good thing is that if we ever do get multiple Redline cars, we know that it will be Team Redline red, Team Redline yellow. They'll make it obvious for us.
They do. They are normally very good at idiot-proofing their cars.
They are up 7 positions, by the way.
Well, I mean, they're not going to win, though.
No, definitely not.
That is the problem. Just to clarify, the reason why we're saying that is because this is not us trying to commentate as curse or anything like that. We've commentated on the Apex Racing Team enough that we know how good they are. The Apex Racing Team, when they get first and second like what they have, they are just going to destroy the rest of the field. Like, that gap will grow insanely unless they reach a point where they have such a big lead they just kind of back off it and stop taking the risk, or they come across some unbelievably poor luck. Like one of them, they're going to win. Like, sorry to break all of your hearts watching. That's just the case. That's the reality of it. The battle for third, though, absolutely is still on.
Yes. Oh well. Until they come together, which I'm not discounting as a very realistic possibility at this point. Battle, by the way, inside of the LMDH Class Cs, the Wave Italy Racing Team and Yuta Saito are trying to go around the outside of Owen Carl. Not the wisest place to put yourself outside of turn number 1, but I guess you'll try something if you want to make your way forward towards the outside of the top 10. You got the Riley Sim Racing Team and Patrick Richter right behind. Benso Racing in 17th spot trying to close the gap as well. Yep, for this Apex Racing 199 car with Michele Costantini, Owen Carl, I think they would have been hoping for a lot more, but it's the trouble with not getting qualifying time in a class of 27 cars.
Right, just to clarify, by the way, because there is something we need to correct from earlier. This is one thing that could be a problem for the Apex Racing Team, although not really, because they've still got McEwen there. Elvis Rankin, the number 99, that penalty that we read out earlier, the 89 versus the 99, we said the 89 would get a 15-second time period. That is incorrect. We were right in our confusion. It is the other way around. So to correct you on the instant, the car 99 will receive a 15-second time penalty post-race after contact between themselves and the 89 entering the oval section earlier on that spun the 89 around, Reina Talvar being the class leader, and so it'll be a 15-second time penalty for the 99 post-race. And guess what? I still think they'll finish second.
I was just about to say, I think they'll finish second as well. They've already got, a 6-odd second lead.
It's been 25 minutes. They've only pulled away from the last like 10 minutes. They've already pulled out 6 seconds. So it's like, yeah, I don't think that 15-second time vote is going to make much difference at all.
No, it's the unfortunate reality though of
Not
racing.
that I think it's the wrong penalty, by the way.
No, you penalise the action. You don't penalise the consequence at the end of the day. It was I don't want to say innocuous shove, but it was a seemingly innocuous shove. That then led to a lot more chaos than he could have expected. The chaos had already started behind, don't forget, as well, so I have the feeling there would have anyway been more incidents happening no matter what. Front of the LMDH field starting to work its way past, once again, the GT3 traffic, still 4 contenders at the very front, although the gap back to Mike Partington has come down by a full second compared to the last time that they were working their way through the traffic. You can see the Williams Esports Fanatec car, Josh Ladd behind the wheel, diving to the inside. Eduardo Leo going to follow through into that Le Mans bus stop. By the way, that is now the official new name for the corner, Lewis.
Is it the Le Mans bus stop?
Yes, because I
hate that.
It's better than Le Mans. Are we agreed there?
I think it still should be the Le Mans chicane, because it was the bus stop. No, I guess you wouldn't really call it a bus stop chicane. But,
yeah, no, I think Le Mans bus stop, I didn't come up with that name, to be fair. I think it was DJ Clark.
It's a mouthful.
It is a mouthful.
It is just a mouthful. Like I said before, I'm so about this whole Le Mans, IMSA and WEC sort of coming together and there being this sort of like this merger of world, because let's be honest, we're all going towards the same goals and stuff, and that's in the motorsport world, in the sim racing world. Like I love these little mergers and these kind of things. So I like something at Le Mans being called Daytona. I like something in Daytona being called Le Mans. I like that, but it's like, yeah, but you've changed something which already had a name.
Yep. Well, to be fair,
what's the kink called around here? It's called the kink. Call it the Le Mans kink.
Yeah, but what's the final corner at Spa called?
Yeah, it's called the bus stop.
It's not the bus stop anymore.
No, it's just called a chicane.
Yeah, and even the naming story behind No Name Corner is it's got its own history.
It's got a few names.
Yeah, no, I mean every corner at Spa has to have legally at least 2 different names.
2 or 3 different names, yeah, so everyone can completely disagree.
So everyone can completely disagree.
I was in a commentary booth with Addison and he called it Bruxelles, and I was like, oh my god, I'm about to kill this thing.
Yeah, what tracks do we have coming up that may... we don't have any tracks coming up
other
than...
No, we just got Road Atlanta.
We got Road Atlanta.
Lots of arguments there.
We're going to have arguments at Road America. Turn 2 is not Turn 2. Turn 3 and 4 are not Turn 3 and 4.
Oh, yeah. No, I think for Road America, for everyone watching now, we're going to say this now, and we're going to do this. Me and Arjuna, we are going to make our own track map, and we're going to number the corners our own way, and we're going to go with that.
Yes. Sorry. What is going on compared with first and second versus third and fourth? Last lap, it was about 1.1 seconds the difference in time. This time by, it's 1.4 seconds slower for the third and fourth place battle, as they almost find out exactly how treacherous lap traffic can be. The gap between first and second, Lewis, is now up to the 8.5 second threshold, half of what the 15-second penalty is going to be.
I think next lap, I think we should ride on board with Luke McEwen and see why the Apex Racing team is like, why they're so much faster. What are they doing, and how are they bump drafting, and why is it so much faster? We'll see it here, obviously, as we head back out into NASCAR 1 and 2. And you can see slightly differing lines coming out there, but it means that they meet right here perfectly. McEwen's got a lot more speed coming off this point, but it means they've already met. They're not having to like close up and meet like about now and then do the bump draft now. They're taking all of that speed, bump drafting, all the way around here. They know exactly how they're going to come off of NASCAR 2 up towards the wall. McEwen obviously backs up before they go through the chicane, but watch him through the final part going through the Le Mans bus stop here, because I guarantee he's going to be faster, because he's then going to close up and bump draft almost before they've exited the Le Mans bus stop. He is already there. Bam, bam, bam. And that, like each time you do that, that's 3-4 tenths perfectly coming out of onto NASCAR 1 and 2, perfectly coming back out into NASCAR 3 and 4 and onto the start finish straight, and you gain that 3 or 4. It's absolutely insane how much time you can gain if you can get this done perfectly, and this is about as perfect as you're going to see it done.
It's 10 seconds, Lewis. It is 10 full seconds.
They might genuinely lap the field. That is not a joke.
No, and I think you described it very pertinently, and you got the crucial thing there. We saw attempted bump drafts in the iRacing Daytona 24 go wrong because drivers would try and get close to each other on the banking. These drivers are always close to each other. They're not risking anything technically going wrong. They're sticking as close as possible and just locking up and trying to carry that momentum forward, and it's something they mastered for the IMSA Esports Michelin Global Championship season finale, a championship that they basically already locked up at that point, we should make it clear.
Yep.
But they have perfected it over the off-season. I think that is the best way to put it. We've got a train for third now. 500? Oh, good question, because they do have some drivers now who...
If they've got that level of bump drafting, surely.
Well, they've got Parker White, who is going to be racing for Kanani Sports in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series, if I remember off the top of my head.
His bump drafting went really well at the day.
Yeah, no, that was the example that I was referring to when I said you want to be linked up before you get to the banking rather than trying to link up on the banking. Parker White maybe needs to learn a little bit.
Didn't go well.
Yeah, he'll want to learn a little bit. You got Kevin Ellis Jr., who has made comments about, maybe wanting to do some eNASCAR racing in the future. Not sure if we'll see him this year, unfortunately.
Yeah, but still, even in the Open, the Open Daytona 500, just getting that. I mean, top split might well be just be a big string of Apex racing team drivers.
He'll be flying back from Poland that week.
Oh, is it that week?
Yes, it's that week.
Oh, well. It makes two of us.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Well, not on the call to be fair.
Yeah, no. Well, yeah.
You're not invited.
Two-time Simmy Award winner really digging into me now. 12 seconds at the front of the field, and now here comes Urano, here comes Redline, because Lallem has gone from 16th to 6th. Still has the opportunity to get up into third position, you'd say. Say goodbye to any chance of getting to the top 2 steps of the podium. Unless... does anyone want... if any iRacing staff member is listening, just log into this session and accidentally hit the safety car button.
Oh. That would be spicy, wouldn't it?
Accidentally, though, of course.
Of course. This is about live race control. We should have the... Actually, no, again, we've said this whole kind of stuff. We've said this a lot.
We've experienced cautions now in the IMSA Esports Michelin Global Championship as well.
When we were doing the championship, we were kind of discussing the positives and negatives of having a safety car in the race. We've said that there are positives and negatives, and I like to have races that have both. So I like the idea with the official iRacing endurance races, like we had with the Daytona. There is no safety cars in it. I like that, because you get to see the strategy perfectly executed from start to finish, and there is no comebacks, no saviours, no nothing. If you want to win that race, you have to basically be perfect for a day, and it's similar. In this, you have to be perfect for 2 hours to make sure that you cross the line first. And I like the fact there's no safety cars, but I'd like an alternative championship in the same kind of vein, like we've seen before, where you have a 2 hour race, or in that case 2 hour 40-minute race over in, with the M Series Sport stuff, 2 hours 40 minutes, where you do have safety cars, something to like say spice up, so you get to see both sides of it. I like that idea in sim racing, that we don't have to just have one type of challenge. We can spice it up by doing our own little things here, there, and everywhere. To your point on the 2 hour and 40-minute races and getting confused with the time, I always never know. 2.4 hours, is that 2 hours and 40 minutes? Is that 2 hours and then 0.4 of an hour? 2.4 is 2 hours and 24 minutes, mate.
That's what I thought it should be, but apparently 2.4 ends up being 2 hours and 40 minutes. In some cases, it ends up being 144 minutes, I think.
Which is 2 hours 24.
No, sorry, I'm getting confused. Some I've seen do 2 hours and 44 minutes, which confuses me even more.
Oh, that's not right.
Yeah, no, so race distance.
That's like 2.7.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Which that doesn't roll off the tongue.
No, that doesn't roll off the tongue at all.
2.7 hours of Daytona.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
14 seconds, the gap now at the front of the GTD field. GT3 field, I should say, in this particular case. 30 minutes in, 25% of the way into the race, and already the Apex Racing team have minimized the impact of their penalty.
Yeah, it's going to be, at this point, it's going to be an Apex Racing Team 1, 2, 3. I think Team Redline could potentially put a stop to that. But like I say, it's a big train for third. I mean, you can see it here. It is a long, long train for third. There's a lot of teams that can stop this being an Apex Racing Team 1, 2, 3. It's just that no one can stop this being a 1, 2, which... Let's go back to the stats when it comes to... I've said before, Team Redline have won this race, at least obviously when it was GT3s, GTEs. They've won this race 3 times on the bounce, right? Obviously very unlikely to win this today, but it has been a 1-2 in the GTE and GT3s over the last couple of years. So at least we're keeping to that trend, because realistically it should be a 1-2 in that category. So that one's holding firm. In this category, less so. Very, very open between the top 4 right now. Vlad Kimichev holding a 2/10 advantage over Josh Ladd, who I'm not necessarily sure will be wanting to push to the very limit of course, because we are quite close to that first round of pit stops.
I think this is one of the interesting points of the race, where at the front of the GTP field, LMDH field, they're having to decide how aggressive they want to be. Josh Ladd will poke his way to the outside, I think more trying to set up the cutback, but Kimichev on the apex parks it nicely. Good defense there. Josh Ladd has a rocket ship of a car. We know just how quick the Williams Esports machine is. Of course, Williams Esports coming out on top in the iRacing Daytona 24, although...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think the less that we actually harp on it...
I was going to say, this is chat being set off at the moment. Nice.
Yeah, the less that we harp on that, the better. The reality is, just to get down to the heart of the thing, though, the Williams car was the fastest car in the iRacing Daytona 24. Especially during the race itself, when it really actually mattered. I would think if Josh Ladd can get past Vlad Kimichev, he might actually fancy his chances of building a bit of a gap.
Yeah, qualifying shenanigans and big race drama aside, be completely realistic. The Williams team in the LMDH in this car, they were the fastest. There's not much question in that. They are extremely fast, this car. They have figured this car out very, very early, and they are looking really, really strong right now. And I'd agree. I think Josh Ladd can make his way past. It's just about making your way past at the right time, because right now if Ladd gets through, well, he's got Vlad Kimichev right there, so what's the point? Kind of sit there, wait, maybe try and do something through that pit stop sequence, as one Williams Esports car is going to go backwards, because Dom Hoffman's making his way up to the top 5.
Yeah, Dom Hoffman already has himself cleared as well, by the way, so pretty good exit out of the bus stop chicane, Le Mans chicane. I am going to make that mistake a handful of times more still in 2023. Around the outside, though, you never want to be left there, and Partington will hold on, just costing each other a bit of time there as they trip over one another, but crucially, they actually gain time to your leaders because, well, traffic is a thing once again, and they've caught that second peloton at trying to hunt down your race leaders. That basically extends from 3rd position to 16th position as we work through the West Horseshoe.
Josh Ladd getting very sketchy in there as well. Like I say, it is going to be dicey through here, as we can see. Leo getting past Pedro Sanchez Albert, as we've got a couple of the Altus cars going a bit slow there. A cheeky bit of 3 wide now. This is where, if you're Mike Partington and you're Dom Hoffman, don't fight each other now. Let them get through traffic and fight afterwards, because you might genuinely close up to that entire group ahead if you can navigate traffic cleanly. Look at this, switching back to the inside before they get towards the Le Mans bus stop. And that's Vlad Kimichev hanging on to the race over Josh Ladd, but pulling out a very, very large margin over Leo behind, because he's stuck in all that traffic.
Yeah, this is exactly what the traffic does. It breaks up the parties, and now 2 seconds split 2nd and 3rd. 2 cars at the front of the field as we get closer and closer to the pit stop window. Remember, about 40 minutes where we expect these LMDH machines to work through the tank of fuel. Fortunately, we don't have to be working about the virtual energy that they did have to figure out in the real world. That did seem rather confusing to work its way through. I did get a note, by the way, from some of our staff behind the scenes at RaceSpot that they've confirmed that Italy is in the midst of a major internet outage, with a lot of the impact going through one particular ISP. Josh Ladd down the inside, though, at the International Horseshoe. Not going to hang around now that they've left Obsidian and SRC Movano behind, and Williams Esports are at the front, Lewis.
Yeah, indeed. Like I say, big drama there for Italy as a whole when it comes to their competition in esports. That's obviously the main issue there, not all of that. I mean, to be fair, internet going down, we kind of treat it as a bit of like, oh, ha ha ha, 21st century problems. It's a very big issue, so we'll keep our fingers crossed that not too much major is going to go wrong over in Italy, and they sort out their issues ASAP. But keeping our eyes focused in this race, what was a 4, potentially even closing in on a 6-horse race for this, it's split out massively. Josh Ladd and Vlad Kimichev 2-second lead. I thought I was hearing a lot of lifting off there from Vlad Kimichev. I'm not sure. I think he's still pushing all right. Pedro Sanchez Albert 2.3 seconds back. Eduardo Leo, obviously, Leo is still in that third and fourth battle. Mike Partington and Dom Hoffman have closed in a fair amount, but obviously that's now to third and fourth, not to the top two. It's a big gap for these two when we're approaching that pit window.
Let's check out. Ooh, that's another BS competition machine.
Whoa.
And that is why Marcus Decken, another one of our race clutch entries, is now unfortunately speared out of the race.
They are having a bad day in the race clutch team. I did get a message from John Bennett kind of showing some of the things that happened in there.
Oh!
Yeah, not pretty. Razor. Williams Esports Razor. Partington's having a problem.
Yeah, Partington down from, what was he, 4th to 8th position now. And, well, I think you could put the puff of smoke and the spun car around and say 1 and 2 added up together to have a bit of an incident. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, Josh Ladd lost the race lead to Vlad Kimichev. It's starting to pick up once again.
Yeah, and again, the gap coming down. Obsidian, Pedro Sanchez-Albert, who we said before about how fast he was in VCO Pro Sim Infinity. Let's take a look once again as to what happened with Partington. Was it so low? Surely not with that kind of line coming in.
Oh, rear end, too much speed.
No, it was so low.
And it wasn't even what we tend to see with this GTP car, where it's the rear brakes that lock on you early in the braking phase. This seemed just though, too much speed trying to hold off the challenge from behind, and you can see as it works off of the banking, the rear end just unbalanced and it steps around.
Yeah, like I say, so easy to do. I mean, this car is pretty sketchy on the rear end. You kind of look at that rear wing and think, surely not. But in the braking zone, absolutely, this rear end is wild. And like I say, but it's typically early, regen, etc., etc.
Here we come.
It can be very snappy, but not that late.
Yeah, pit stop's underway just after the 40-minute mark as well, and look how deep Pedro Sanchez-Albert sent that one in.
Was it too deep, though?
I think he's good. I think he's good, because you could just see the car slow down in the nick of time. Confirmation, I don't see a penalty on screen for speeding, and so we get the first cycle of pit stops then, and it's a busy pit lane. No one's been able to extend further than anyone else, really. Yes, we had a handful of cars come in the lap before, but I think more just trying to put themselves off sequence from the rest of the field, Lewis, because we kind of got a sense of the pit entry here. Yes, you've got plenty of width, but it funnels down very quickly, and you do not want to be caught up if someone else has an issue.
I will say, Pedro Sanchez-Albert did cross the line at 92k. I've just
Close
had a look.
enough.
And the speed limit is 88k. But I think then drove for enough time at like 85, 86 that I think it negated the penalty. Because it's not, in iRacing, it's not a one-to-one. If you're over the speed limit, you can counter it by getting under by enough, because of how essentially it is in NASCAR. It's done but in
average
segments.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's an average per segment. Not in the whole lane, it's per segment of the pit lane. So if you can get under it quick enough, essentially you can bypass that penalty if you're coming in very hot. Still, slight mistake, and yet still has done wonders with it, has Pedro Sanchez-Albert, got to say.
Yeah, it did close the gap back up to the leading duo, although on the left side you'll notice that it is no longer 91 that leads. It is the HS Racing Sniff, number 11, with Paddy Wolf behind the wheel. 19 laps into a stint, did pit in the couple of early moments that we had, and so we will get him back down onto the pit lane in a handful of minutes' time to circle through his pit stop requirements. Probably about 8 or so laps before we'll see him come back on in. Check back in with GT3 leaders, who are now 22 seconds clear, Lewis, of those behind.
It's a very impressive, right? Like I say, I mean, part of me is sort of like, well, you wouldn't get GT3s doing this. So I'm like, yeah, but you would. If they could, you would genuinely get GT3s doing this all the time. You get us running pretty close and using the aero, pushing that kind of stuff. But it's just, I understand how frustrating it is for the rest of the class. But when you're seeing it done so beautifully, look, we're seeing from the 99 and the 98 right now. I mean, yeah, we've been accused of our biases and such in the past. And, you know, that would probably lean itself towards the Apex Racing team sometime. We do get along with them quite well. We get along with quite a lot of the teams quite well. Oh my goodness, that was scary. It's just how well the top two are doing it right now. It's perfect. And when you're seeing something being nailed so perfectly, I mean, Luke McEwen and Elvis Rankin are just so in step with each other, first and second, that they are decimating and making what is a quality field look
average.
average is probably not fair because
average for this level.
Still many steps above me, but yeah, certainly not the drivers they actually are. They're making them look less good. Less good is the way. I think we should. Less good.
Look at the English, the language coming out of the two-time Simi Award winner Lewis McLean through the bus stop. The leaders in LMDH work their way through. Paddy Wolf has lost a lot of time, but more significantly, look at who got a great run out of that one. Eduardo Leo to the outside of Josh Ladd, just timing the exit of that Le Mans chicane almost perfectly. Does, I think, end up running out of hybrid power. Tucks back into line for now, but once again it is a 4-car train that builds itself up.
Whoa!
Only about 2 and a bit seconds back to Dominic Hoffman as well, who will be trying to close his way on.
Goodness me.
Sanchez Albert to the inside, and Eduardo Leo wiggles his way through the braking zone before deciding, you know what, you can have 3rd position for now.
Josh Ladd's lines there across the entirety of the start-finish were absolutely terrifying. I'm not 100% sure as to what was properly going on there, as we can see Valtteri Olander making his way past Timo Miller-Kangis in the Race Clutch green car. I mean, Race Clutch have had what can only be described as a pretty dismal day thus far, just having a couple of cars left up. I was going to say 1 car left up in the top 10, but they've actually got 2 in Formula 28 and the 21. Miller-Kangis driving the green car, and then Rick Yonk driving the Race Clutch blue car, which you'd be forgiven for saying, but they're all BMW livery. Yes, they are. Because Race Clutch,
they forgot.
Livery.
Yeah, they forgot RaceSpot.media. The link's not changed. The link stayed the same since the 24-hour as well.
Sorry, I mean, I did have a massive go at the Race Clutch team after
did
the 24-hour Le Mans batch. They were running the Alpine cars. Both of them appeared in the same livery with a different number on the side, and I just said to their team managers, "That's not very good, is it?" That is 4 teams now in my naughty book.
I assume you're talking about Jurgen van Bergen, by the way.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
The team manager on that side of things.
Yeah, I mean, you could talk to Robin Bonden or.
I'd chat to anyone who would listen to my complaining at that point. To be honest.
Yeah. No,
4 teams. Furious. If you're gonna have multiple cars in a race, give them different liveries.
Oh, the best one was I forget what it was. It was probably the iRacing Roar. So we're talking a week before the iRacing Daytona 24. I think we had 3 SimRC entries in the touring car class. 2 of them actually had different highlighted colors. You know what I mean? Like they got purple mirrors. One's got green mirrors. So they've got enough highlights that you can somewhat pick them apart. And then you get to the 3rd of the entries, which was an identical livery to one of the other 2.
Yeah, right.
It's just like, come on. You went to the effort to get almost there, and then decided it wasn't worth it to continue.
Yeah, but this is like mirrors are completely pointless. To be like, but we've got different mirror colours. Like, yeah, brilliant. That really stands out at 320k.
No, it's the highlights. If it's just mirrors, yes, I agree. But if you've got enough highlights, it can be okay-ish sometimes.
Jota in actual WEC, they were like, yeah, no, we've got different wheel nut colours.
Wait,
what?
Wheel nut colours? Excuse me, we're not that eagle-eyed.
Yeah, like, cool, thanks. That's helped quite literally
nobody. You know what has helped someone here? The traffic has helped Vlad Kiminchev get a 1.3 second buffer, and now we get bump drafting in the LMDH class as Josh Ladd, again with the questionable lines that you were referring to about a lap ago, ducks down below the apron.
Yeah, absolutely terrifying for yet another lap there from Josh Ladd, but I say bump drafting can work in the GT3s when you've got 2 teammates that work well together. In the LMDH, you're going a little bit too fast, especially with how the power deployment. The power deployment, it's not even. Obviously how you're wanting to deal with it at a certain point. Obviously how you've done your setups and everything like that. There's a lot that you can do that all kind of mean that you're kind of running your own thing. It's why bump driving is not a good idea, despite the slightly wide nose of this car. But it goes liveries, by the way. What's the 2 Apex Racing Team cars? 99 and
oh, no, they're identical. They are identical.
Right, so the Apex Racing Team, you got in my naughty book.
Well, you wanted... okay.
Unacceptable.
I'm not going to throw the specific member of the Apex Racing Team under the bus that told me this, but Lewis, they have different numbers. We should be able to pick them apart. You tell me the difference between the 98 and the 99 right now. Yeah,
no way. Not that. Again, it's like I kind of get where you're coming from, but like at this point, which one's which? Which one's which? Which one's leading?
I went
And
back.
who's behind the wheel? I'd be furious.
I've gone back to that message from the specific member of the Apex Racing team. If they're watching,
Who said that?
No, I'm not going to throw.
I'm trying to think as to who would have said such a thing.
I'm not going to throw them under the bus. My DMs are still open. Get back to me. We'll have this conversation.
I want an apology on are they in this race?
No, no, they're not driving. No.
Oh, is it? Okay.
They may be behind the scenes, but
okay. Yeah. Okay. I think where we're going. I think I know where we're going on this.
well,
one.
I don't know what they're doing for this race, to be perfectly clear. Front of the peloton in GT3, by the way, Chris Lullum has carved his way forward. 13 positions to sit on the podium right now. He's got Ascari Rene for that BS competition, 95 behind him, and then Gaio Valero in the 97 for the Apex Racing team. Started to stretch out once again in this second little pack as they work their way to the line. And now the potential for Rene to work together with Lullum and potentially try and build up an advantage. But we're 50 minutes into this race, and the gap is 24 seconds between first and third. Let's leave the penalty aside for a second here, Lewis. Let's just forget that there's 15 seconds hanging over the number 99. 24 seconds in 50 minutes. I genuinely don't have words to describe what an incredible feat that is.
Yeah, I'm glad this race is only 2 hours. Let's put it that way. But like again, it's insanity because I don't like, say for example, like this red line car, which by the way, I'm still going with the prediction was pretty good because they have got up to third. I mean, let's be honest, Gianni Vecchio is not in this car. It's Lullum and Diego Pinto. Lullum, who's done this first in. It's an incredible team, incredible drivers. Finally, Paddy Wolf comes into the pit lane. This is an incredible car. Same as with BS competition, the other Apex Racing team, Urano. They're all really, really strong cars. They're just made to look distinctly not special in this race because when two people come together, whoa, hello, that was an almost return to the racing line and an almost return to the pit lane for Lullum. That was scary.
Yep, that was. Sometimes you get those nervy moments and you just have to say, okay, we survived, let's forget about it and never think about it again.
Learn from it and move on.
Yes, I did get a message back from that member of the Apex Racing team, by the way, so they are watching and listening. All will become clear soon. Does this mean that we're just going to get clear cars from the Apex Racing team in the future?
Does this mean that we're going to get colours on each of the cars, please? Because if it's not that, I literally don't care.
You've seen Brandon Traino's red Indy car, right?
Yeah, I have.
The Apex Racing team is capable of running with colours, so I'm just saying.
Look at the big red machine that's in this race. You know, I mean, I will say Ascari Rene's car is a little bit tricky to pull out from the normal BS competition. But there you go, boom.
Can't miss this one.
I can look at that, and from miles away, I can tell two things. Number one, that is a BS competition car.
And it's
number
a different
two,
one.
It's not that one.
Yeah, that's the most important thing as well, is that it's a different. Going back to the Apex cars, it's not just Brandon Traino that's had a Dallara IR18 in different colors. This may be before your time really focusing on iRacing, Lewis, but Zach Campbell, in the month of May, once had a gold car.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was properly nice.
Obviously, they can't pick green because green's the Academy colour.
True. We do have at least that separation. They're not that evil to make us confused between the Apex Racing team cars and the Apex Racing Academy cars.
No, but I think that there just needs to be, like I say, with your team, whatever way it is, you need to make an obvious way of making the colours and the cars separated. Because, like, there are a lot of teams that don't even bother. There are a lot of teams that do, like even Williams Esports. At least they, classic that I'm talking about them in this race, and they haven't. Banter. But normally they, it's a white fronted car, and then when they do Razor and it's bright green, and they do, they do Chill Blast, it's blue.
They got Playseat as well, which is orange on the front. Never seen that car in competition.
I've not seen that car. No, I was going to say I've not seen that one.
I've seen it in screenshots, just never out on track.
Benke one, they make it nice and purple in front. The thing is, they do something to separate each of the cars, and I like that. In a lot of their major competitions, I like the fact they do that. I like the BS competition do that. I like that Red Line. They typically throw out a couple of other liveries and such. Teams need to do this more because we're idiots.
Oh no, we are. We are very.
And we need all the help we can get.
As much help and then some more, if you could. Just scrolling through the social medias, by the way, you mentioned Gianni Vecchio, 3-time winner in BMW competition here at Daytona. Not in the field today, and it turns out for good reason, as we see Josh Ladd down the inside get back up into second place. As Pedro Sanchez Albert with the up and under almost runs right into the back of him, but able to slow the momentum down just in the nick of time to pop to the outside into the International Horseshoe. They really are starting to pick up this battle and almost push each other off the corner.
Yeah, this is a sketchy fight once again. It's just allowing the top to
What is going on?
Weaving. Calm it down, sir. Neither of these two are particularly happy with each other. Pedro Sanchez Albert seeing that gap growing up to 1.5 seconds to Vlad Kimichev, and Josh Ladd is not pleased with the group behind at all, and the group behind is not pleased with him. This is very sketchy, and Vlad Kimichev is about the only person inside the top 5 that's really happy right now. Let's see this once again from on board.
Yeah, sorry.
The pair of them weaving.
Yeah,
that's unacceptable.
Pair of them are weaving, but I'm going to put more of that sorry on Josh Ladd. You're the car in front. It's your responsibility to avoid getting into a situation that would end in tears. GT3 cars, pit stops underway, at least at the very front. And they, Lewis, only got 54 minutes into the race. Look at who is able to extend the stint a little bit further. Has the rest of the field been trying to focus on getting to the top of the hour and avoiding a splash and dash?
See, part of me, this is going to sound wild because it's just totally not true. Could this be the Apex Racing team sitting there thinking, we can do 65 minutes on a tank if we work together and we work well enough. We built enough of a gap that we can do 65 minutes. Because we all know this before. When it comes to these kind of races, you want to avoid pit lane. If not, they think they're so fast they can splash and dash and still destroy the team. Which, you know, how they've been going. Yeah, I wouldn't rule it out. But yeah, you want to stay off a pit lane as much as possible. So unless they're thinking that kind of region, I don't know. That's an odd one. A good storyline to follow.
I think pit lane delta here is about 25-30 seconds, depending on how you are. Remember, of course, that the pit lane limiter line on exit has moved quite a considerable distance forward compared to even 3 years ago because of the RFID scanning system that now tracks the tires as cars exit the pit lane. So it is a bit more of a time loss than it would have been before. The gap was already at about 30 full seconds. So yeah. Lewis, I want to throw you a little bit under the bus right now, because you were trying to throw Race Clutch under the bus right now. I've just got a message from the team manager who's just apologized for missing the paint and wants to make sure that you're aware for round 2 they'll be back on stream.
They'll be back on stream in different colours, though, or are they just going to be red and black?
I'm sure there will be red and black there, hopefully with some highlights.
No, they will. I can guarantee.
They'll have different wheel colours.
This is me trying to start. This is me trying to start a fight. So they go, fine, we'll prove it, and we'll come along in different colours. And I'm like, yeah. So they're just going to be red and black. Prove me wrong, please prove me wrong.
They'll have different wheel nut colours. Don't worry about that. They're swapping around at the front of the field a little bit. Still Lallem, Rene, Valero, 1, 2, and 3. Rankin and McEwen now trying to coordinate once again. Maybe this is also going to be a bit of a sacrifice play from the number 99 machine, because he knows, of course, that he's got the 15-second time penalty. He's going to be the one allowing McEwen to maybe save a bit of fuel. 65 minutes, probably pushing it at Daytona, but, I mean, we'll get an indication based on when the rest of the cars come on in, because we're still waiting for a good 12 machines to dive their way down on towards the pit lane.
What's the fair driver switch? Because obviously McEwen and Elvis Rankin have just been in the pit lane, but neither of them switched.
I didn't even pick that one up. Good point.
What is the fair?
So the way that it would usually work is take 2 hours, however many laps that you think you're going to do in the 2 hours, as Josh Ladd has to jink back up to the high line and avoid running into the back of that Valkyrie BMW. Maybe just trying to get a bit of the toe as well. But usually you take the race distance, divide it by, I think it's the number of drivers, and then divide it by 4. So an hour divided by 4 means you need to do 15 laps. 15 minutes worth of laps.
Well, one thing is for sure here is the 99 and the 98 will be back in pit lane. Yeah. Will be. There is no question on that. Those two cars will 100% have to return to pit lane. Yeah. They've not switched drivers.
I did get a message before we started from a certain George Simmons saying, He's not home, but he just wanted to check in. GT3 will be super interesting. To be fair, this is the first time I'm reading this message because it is only 6:40 in the morning for me.
Confirming that it wasn't him that said about the numbers.
No, it was not.
So we're narrowing down the Apex Racing
We are
team.
narrowing it down. George Simmons has just said, I think it's the most difficult ever to reach the 1 hour mark, so couple of teams may well two-stop it. Turns out, George Simmons was referring to his own team.
Yeah, right. Literally no one, everyone else is like, yeah, that was easy. What are you talking about?
Well, to be fair,
obviously it's not easy.
Yeah, I don't usually want to ever think that George is wrong. George, of course, former member of Mission Control at the McLaren Formula 1 team, so you know at least he wasn't part of the Ferrari strategy calls. He's been part of the reason why we've seen the Apex Racing team be so dominant over the 2022 campaign, building what was a very effective team, not just with him, but Mark Tranter and a couple of others as well. And of course, George Simmons then went on at the end of last year, Lewis, to take that outside of just iRacing to partner up with Veloce and the McLaren Formula 1 esports team and take Lucas Blakely to the Formula 1 esports drivers championship and take McLaren to the constructors championship.
Love Lucas Blakely.
I know.
He's such a good lad.
6:40 in the morning. 6:40 in the morning.
I mean, again, it's an interesting call. I mean, it's opened this race up quite nicely. Regardless, I mean, I was going to say their next stop should be quite short, but because they didn't do the driver swap.
It's going to be a minimum of 40 seconds, I would think, still.
I mean, I don't know. I'm all for it. As Redline come into the pit lane, BS Competition also come into the pit lane. But with them coming into the pit lane now, obviously we are now going to tick over 1 hour to go. So when they leave the pit lane, there'll be probably around 59 minutes left in this race.
So they are guaranteed, I think, to do a driver change now, and then they'll be hoping to save some fuel. Eduardo Leo in the SRC Movano car that has been punching at the very front of the field, around at the West Horseshoe, and now down in 7th position. It all came unstuck for him through the infield. Dominic Hoffman had been able to close up to the back of the leading quartet, and now it is still a quartet just shy of Leo. What happens here as they work past the kink into the West Horseshoe? A gap that was always closing. The Impulse GT3 car tries to hit the apex. And, well, Eduardo Leo self-inflicts some damage onto his machine.
Yeah, that is nothing on the shoulders of the Impulse car there. Like you say, there is that gap was always going to happen. Again, the GT3s, they're going to be going on their line. It's up to you to lap them cleanly, and Leo, they're making the mistake. Some people might sit there and be like, well, yeah, but he'd already got there. It's like, yeah, but no, not really. Yeah, you've got to remember that the GT3, the Impulse car, will have already committed to its line. It can't exactly just back out of it. And to be fair, shouldn't have to just back out of it. That is not how multi-class racing works. I don't think I have to explain that to the grid. They all know their stuff. They all know how to mind their P's and Q's driving around here. I would guarantee 99% of this grid will have done the Daytona 24 a couple of weeks ago. Like I say, those kind of things is very silly. We shouldn't really see that at this level.
To put this in context, by the way, the strategy that we're seeing from the Apex Racing team, they find them. I'm trying to do the mental math right now because we still have 3 cars that have pitted early after damage in the first couple of moments of the race who are yet to come back down to the safety of the pit lane. I think they find themselves a good 50-odd seconds clear of Redline's number 20, the first car to have also pitted, and we think is good to the end of the race. Diogo Pinto taking over from Chris Lullum. Diogo Pinto got his World Championship defense off to a pretty good start yesterday, winning the sprint race and then surviving the main race itself, if we could be fair.
Surviving is a way of saying it. Yeah, and it was the high priority, not only the championship though. So yeah.
Oh, that's a slow Apex Racing team car off the exit of the chicane. And that's Stanley Deslandes, who won the iRacing Daytona 24 in the LMP2 category along with Elvis Rankin.
Yeah, obviously did very well last year over various competitions, including the Rocket British Formula 4 Esports Championship. But yeah, very slow off of it. I would expect it to be a slowdown penalty, but
I think he must have damage because he had pitted 2 laps ago. So
yeah,
straight on over to the replay machine, which will tell us all. Send by Urana. And is that Josh Ladd or Josh Ladd's teammate? I would guess. 'Cause I don't know if Josh Ladd is still in the car. That was definitely the leading pack that was coming on through, and it was, I can confirm, Josh Ladd in the Williams Esports Fanatec entry. Again, going for a glap that never existed.
That's a no. That is a very solid no from Josh Ladd. Should know better that. I get it. You know, you've got the race leader directly ahead of you, but
I mean,
that is not on. That is not on. Not in a million years is that on. That is okay. I don't want to speak on behalf of race control, but that's a slam dunk. That is a slam dunk penalty.
I tend to agree with you there. I did coin this in the build-up to the Daytona 24. LMP2 historically had been the let me pass class.
Yep.
GTP, as it's known in IMSA, this LMDH class, is now the got to pass class.
Yeah. Or
get me pass class, depending on how you look at it. And then you've got the GT3s, GTD and IMSA, being going to die class.
Yeah, I mean it is really in that category. Now we need to know what LMDH is.
Oh.
Now we have to think about that. Help us in chat. Let us know.
Yeah.
What does LMDH stand for? Not obviously its real meaning. We kind of get that one. but what does it mean if LMP has let me pass? Because it really is in that category, isn't it?
Someone's going to jump into chat and say, Lewis, we all know it means Le Mans Daytona hybrid.
Hybrid. It's like yes.
No, we know.
We know that. That's not funny enough. We need more comedy.
So I've seen a couple of comments in the chats already, just saying, well, the LMDH car had nowhere to go. He had nowhere to go because he put himself.
He sent it.
Yeah, he put himself in that position. Let's be honest. I will recognize and concede that it is a very difficult thing to judge. Down the inside into that chicane. You lose the references on the outside because the GT cars are going to be blocking the number boards and whatnot. But at the end of the day, it is your responsibility to pass safely. That GT3 car cannot make the corner if the Williams car gets through without any contact. The LMDH car is the one that instigates that position. It is as simple as that. Okay, confirmation, by the way, in the GT3 class, Lewis. The gap between the 98, race-leading 98 car, once you factor in the penalty, and Diogo Pinto, 53 seconds.
Right. Okay.
53 seconds. Even if they needed almost a full service pit stop, as in do the driver swap and come back out, they're in position to be able to win this race.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. We'll talk back again in 54 minutes to see. Also, got a shout out to Mark Custis here. Let me dive hard.
Ooh.
LMDH.
That's pretty good.
That is pretty good. That is pretty good. And it's about right because, as I say, I will concede. Yeah, I've done my fair share of higher level.
Of murdering.
Definitely. Driving around in what was an LMP1 back then, but yeah, this is sort of 2015, 2016 stuff in sim racing. Doing that high level stuff, the higher category stuff, and trying to navigate some lower category stuff can be very, very difficult. There is a way of doing it, and there is a way of doing it well. I was always way too cautious because those kind of things, those are the mistakes that you make, right? And some people can kind of do them, and it's as if they can just get away with it. That is a scenario where it's like it's frustrating, but you have to accept that you're just going to lose time. You kind of go, well, yeah, but a racing driver's never going to accept they're going to lose time. It's like, well, tough. You're racing in the wrong category if you can't accept that. If you can't accept that you're going to lose time for something like that, then multi-class racing is not for you. Josh Ladd made a significant error there, if I'm completely honest, and it is what it is.
It is what it is. No, I think that's the best way to put it. That was another nervy moment as a LMDH car dipped down below. It was half on the apron, half still on the banking, trying to pass Diogo Pinto and company. I did mention, by the way, Ollie Steinbrat, a new team for him, Tushek.eu Esports. Definitely not one I'm familiar with here, Lewis.
Nope.
Not sure about you.
No, not a clue. I mean, to be fair, sometimes in these races we get random team names that come in, and I'm like, yeah.
That doesn't look random though, because they've got a logo and everything.
Exactly. Honestly, don't know. I will say, I do quite like that livery.
It's understated in the right ways.
It just looks smart. Although I will say the green on it, because obviously the number boards and
IMSA.
All that, yeah, the IMSA stuff, that looks horrible in that livery. But I'd say the rest of the livery looks pretty good. By the way, the number 1 on the 97, in a shock to absolutely no one, was under investigation, and almost immediately, literally, like race control, like it's under investigation. 5 seconds later, he came back in and went 10-second time penalty to the number 1. It was like, that is not a shock. So Josh Ladd has a 10-second time penalty for the navigating, shall we say, of back markers going through the through the Le Mans bus stop.
I'm just saying,
that was
if
predictable.
Yeah, if this was a Dakar and that was the job your navigator did.
Oh yeah, sacked.
No, sacked immediately
Sacked.
during the stage itself. Get out, open the door, send him out, and get a new one in. So that's going to drop him back to. It's going to drop him back behind Mike Partington, to be honest. So he's going to drop to 8th position. So we'll track, of course, 2 penalties that we're aware of right now, Lewis. Of course, 10 seconds to the number 1, 15 seconds to the number 99. One of those going to have a major impact. One of those likely going to have no impact. But we will wait and see how the rest of things play out. Still some fighting going on. Do remember, of course, this is not about qualification for BMW Sim Live anymore. It's about getting championship points to be at the in the top 12 of the championship, I think it is, in each class. Come the end of the 10 races when we pay out our season prize pool, and so Valtteri Lander trying to hold off Race Clutch and Rick Yonk, but also Eduardo Leo on his recovery in the SRC Movano car.
Yeah, like I said, there's a lot to play for. I mean, we like this the change last year when we moved it away from the win and you're in kind of thing to opening up. I mean, I quite like the win and you're in, but after 2 or 3 rounds, it becomes a complete cluster and confusion. To be like, so they took a win, so then it goes back to, nope, they've taken a win, so it goes, nope, so they've, yep, them. And it's like, but they've also qualified this season, and it's like, there's a lot to think of in this race, whereas I quite like, it's a championship now, you know, with some money per race. I mean, so you might say, well, it's a bit more boring, isn't it? It's like, well, to be honest, no, I don't think it is. We have some races where there are quieter sections here in the. Obviously, when it was just the GT3s, when it was the Sim 120s, but obviously now in the BMW M SIM Cup, we've had quieter portions of races, but I don't think we typically have boring races. Right, there's always something going on, which I do quite like, as Race Clutch blew out a little bit wide, just allowing BS Turner to come back into this fight.
Yeah, I think we did have a format by which the previous races kind of went. 10 minutes, 15 minutes of carnage as drivers tried to jockey for position. Then we got into the fuel saving, right? Everyone got into a line and we knew the numbers that we were trying to hit to do whatever we had to do, knowing as well that especially last year we were changing tires pretty regularly. The question was 0 tires, 2 tires, or 4 tires, but
which was excellent, by the way.
Which was great, but most of the time we knew that you weren't just taking fuel, so there was actually added incentive to save the fuel because that was separate from the tires. Then we had the calm before the pit stop storm, and after that it was basically pedal to the metal, go, go, go for everybody. It was drive as fast as you can. I don't feel like we're going to have a formula this time around, though, if I can be completely honest. That is a very, very damaged
Ouch.
And very crabbing BS competition car, as Ryan Barneveld will bring it down onto pit lane. I can only assume shenanigans have occurred.
Definitely. That's a significant amount of damage. You say normally at this level, that is surely with that level that is assisted.
Oh, you're not gonna enjoy this one, Lewis.
Oh, who is it?
I mean,
oh no.
Yep, you could tell what's coming. It's out of turn number 4. We said if you want to bump draft, you've got to be a bit smarter about it. And well, sorry, Diogo Pinto, that was not very smart.
No, and guess what? Slam dunk penalty.
Yep, that's probably going to be a slam dunk penalty on our world champion.
Yep, like I say, coming in way too fast, and
he lifts the rear as well.
Yeah, well, this is something which you will learn an awful lot if you've done any super speedway racing in the NASCAR stock cars. Is that it's not just about it was the speed differential that Diogo Pinto had versus Ryan Barneveld, but it was also where that contact was made. Obviously, I'm not talking about like, it was on the exit of NASCAR 4. No, it was hit essentially a quarter off to the right, which, of course, if you tap there, you're going to spin that car straight out to the left. Of course you are. And so, yeah, that is a costly mistake. See the tap of the brakes there? That is what you kind of want to see. It was a little tap of the brakes just to allow that car to kind of close back in at the point that the lead car wants. That's fine. It's absolutely fine. You'll see that a lot in stock car racing. But just, I mean, yeah, that red line car's done. Yep. Not like done for the race. Obviously, not going to get DQ'd. But it's surely that's now removed from the podium contention.
It does mean that Trishek.eu esports, on debut as far as we know, are going to be fighting for a podium with, surprisingly, a BS competition machine. 2 have already fallen by the wayside. Of course, Reina Talvar got the ding from the Apex. Oh, okay, sorry. I don't want to open up old wounds here, Lewis, but that is a second time in 2.5, 3 weeks that Reina Talvar has been tagged from behind by an Apex Racing Team car. The difference was here today, it took him out of the race. Back in the iRacing Daytona 24, Talvar puts it on pole, and then immediately into turn number 1, gets a shot from behind by Apex, pushes him wide. Apex take the lead and don't look back from there.
There are times in like where we've had it before when it comes to racing, whatever, whether it's a team, whether it's a driver or whatever, where it's just it's all you're always making contact with the same people, and this happens in real life as well. Of course, anyone remember back to 2011 with Lewis Hamilton and Felipe Massa?
Oh yes, and then you had Kevin Magnussen, Nico Hulkenberg.
Yeah, it's like for whatever reason, these two people, 2 groups, whatever, they keep finding themselves on track in the same position at the same time, and normally it ends badly. And the thing is when it ends badly, you're expecting it to end badly the next time. So what I'm saying is that we'll probably see this again in future because they're expecting it now. And when you're expecting it and you're trying to kind of avoid it, you can actually end up making it much, much, much worse. Yeah. And so that's something to keep an eye out for in 2023. Sorry, Reina.
That's a storyline. That's for sure.
Something to look forward to. And by look forward to, I mean not for anyone involved, literally.
Third time's the charm. So I'm sure the third time that Reino gets a shot from behind, something will happen.
It'll be into victory.
Yes, he'll get pushed to victory. He'll get the bump from behind at Daytona, and it'll come full circle.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, Pedro Sanchez Albert really sent it through the kink there, but he's fighting with Dominic Hoffman as they carve their way through that little bit of bumper-to-bumper action. About 3.5 seconds off the back of Josh Ladd, as Valtteri Alander says hello to some tyres.
Yep, little bonk there, managed to get back onto the road and get back going again. That's if you're going to go off the West Horseshoe, that's probably about as good as you're going to get.
I guess it started
at the kink too. Yeah, you're right. That's scary, and that's fast. As soon as he's gone around the outside, going through the kink again. This is the whole thing: is that there is one person who's at fault here, and it's not the GT3. It is on Valtteri Alander. You can't going around the outside of the kinks unwise at the best times, but when you're going around the outside there on the exit of the corner, it is already tight there, ladies and gentlemen. It is already narrow. It is already tricky at the best of times, and that GT3 is at the absolute limit of its grip. And you in a LMDH, and in one of these brand new prototypes, you're going so much faster than the GT3s can possibly do that you kind of think, well, yeah, but surely they've got enough grip. It's like, no, they don't. They simply do not. You're asking for that crash going around the outside there like that.
No, absolutely. And we have a lot of time for Valtteri Alander. But
love the guy.
But we're also very willing to throw him under the bus and point out when he's made silly mistakes, which he is.
Yeah, we've seen a couple.
ISOWC Long Beach comes to mind as well.
As well as a certain other round where we went racing in California.
Yeah. Christian Steele does not want you to bring that one back up.
Sorry. Valtteri Alander did cause probably one of the larger crashes that we've had the privilege of commentating on in sim racing.
Which one are you thinking of now?
I mean, it was a pretty big crash coming towards the line at California.
Oh, it was. No, it was. But I commentate on a lot of off-road racing, so
I've commentated on my fair share of large crashes.
Yes.
I remember screaming ARCA brakes at the top of my voice.
Oh, I remember that one as well, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, ERWC last year.
Oh, yeah, and I'm going to have to get ready for you shouting that in my ear this time.
Yeah.
Knock on wood. UK Embassy. I'm still
I
waiting.
can't help you with that one.
No, you can't, unfortunately.
Can't help you with that one.
40
I've only just found my passport again, mate. I don't want to help anyone else getting abroad.
42 minutes to go, so we're about to enter into the pit stop window for the GTPs as well to get to the very end of the race, so expect them to be diving on in momentarily, I would likely assume. Valtteri Alander bleeds another position, this time to Manuel Sudau in that Maniti racing car. That's one of the storylines that we should also talk about, Lewis. We've had a pretty wacky off-season, pretty silly season if we can be honest. Beneke leaving Team Redline, for example, just a handful of the moves that we've seen over the course of the winter. But I think with so much craziness at the very top level, it's some of the other stories that maybe slip through the cracks. For example, the fact that Team RSO, a team that I've raced against and I've commentated on for years now at this point, somewhat disbanding and dissolving their operations, and so a lot of the drivers from RSO that have been in special event top splits under that banner have joined up with another major team that we love to talk about a lot. They've joined up with Maniti Racing, so it's good to see some very capable sim racers getting a new home at a place where hopefully they can only continue to grow.
Yeah, I mean, I say this is the kind of thing. I mean, RSO were a team that it's not only, we did see them in certain events and stuff. We typically see them for the most part out in, or used to anyway, out in the special events, right? Not necessarily a lot of the larger championships and whatnot, whereas like teams like Maniti and Urano and obviously Apex, BS competition that we've got on our screen here, and Redline and Commander, they all appear in the special events, but they also appear for the majority in respective championships, and sometimes that can be quite hard to make a team continue on when you're not taking part in championships left, right and centre. As we, again, whilst I'm waffling on about that, of course it is the second pit stop for the Apex Racing team. They should still be in a very comfortable spot here. Yeah,
we're still expecting them to emerge as leaders, especially given that as we take a look top and bottom at where Diego Pinto is, he is just about coming out of that Le Mans chicane. Has the Tushek 012 and the BS competition number 7 tucked up behind as well, but as Michael Yanni releases himself off the limiter as he gets towards the line, he's got 99 with Maxence Godino behind the wheel. That's a new name to me in the Apex Racing team camp that I haven't heard before. Very much looking forward to seeing how they'll get along, but of course that 99 car, the one that's got the 15-second time penalty and the margins off a pit road, Lewis, well, it's 13 and a bit seconds back to third spot.
Yep, and to what will actually be third spot, it'll be 14 seconds because the number 20 Team Redline car has just received a 10-second time penalty, of which absolutely no one is shocked by. Obviously, courtesy of that bump draft in between Pinto and Ryan Barneveld. I mean, it was expected. It was expected. 10-second time penalty is BS competition looking to bully their way onto the podium straight down the inside. That was a bold move.
We're getting some interesting conversation in our chats, by the way, about that incident with Valtteri Alander and expectations for GT3 and LMDH cars when making passes in traffic. I don't think I can make it. Oh, as we got LMDH pit stop, so we'll come back to that in a moment. You got Vlad Kimichev, Josh Ladd, Pedro Sanchez-Albert all down. Eduardo Leo is going to extend the stint a lap further and maybe try and spend a little less time in the pit lane, but of course driver changes forthcoming. Kimichev out, Wallmeyer in, Sanchez-Albert out, Pablo Lazar will jump in, and of course Ate Kauppinen, who was part of the Williams Esports Mahler team that was looking good to win LMP2 in the iRacing Daytona 24, steps on up to the GTP. He takes him over from Josh Ladd in that Williams Esports Fanatec car that of course does have the time penalty to come at the end of the race. Off and away for Jonas Wallmeyer after spending 33.3 seconds stationary.
Like it.
Yeah, he's going to have...
clean number.
He's going to have Ate Kauppinen between him and the two contenders that he will be really thinking about as well in the form of Urano's number 90 with Daniel Lorenzo taking over from Dominic Hoffman, and then Pablo Lazar. So I think this works out very, very nicely for that 91 machine.
Yeah, like I say, we'll have to wait and see when the rest of the contingent, by the rest of the contingent I mean SSC Movano Corsaverde and HS Racing Sniff, which did go an awful lot further last time. Should be a slightly shorter stop, but like probably not by enough. 91's looking like it's in a very good spot, but obviously driver switches and such can really affect consistency in these kind of races, especially in cars that are this tricky to drive. So I think we've got a bit of a race coming in for the next 37 minutes. We'll have to wait and see. To go back to the point now, what we were talking about when it comes to that move with Valtteri Landa, just very quickly point out, because I've been on both sides of this when it comes to disagreeing with it and then agreeing with it, right, as to like who was at fault, whatever. Because I remember back, it was one of the rounds in WEC. It was at Silverstone, and it was coming through what is turn 2, so the farm curve, the very fast left-hander. I'm pretty sure it was Brendan Hartley in the LMP1 Porsche who'd gone around the outside of a GTE there and had caused an awfully large crash. And I remember sat there and hearing them on the comment saying, well, yeah, Brendan Hartley shouldn't go there. And I'm sort of sat there thinking, yeah, but he kind of could though, couldn't he? He should have, absolutely fine. And then I raced in the LMP1,
yes,
be it on iRacing or elsewhere, and then you start to realise what is a good move and what isn't. And Valtteri Landa sure could have gone where he went.
Wasn't a good move.
But like, I have seen it in chat being discussed of like the GT3 should never race in LMDH. That is absolutely correct. A GT3 should never race in LMDH. But that's not what was happening there. The GT3, as you are told in the lower categories, always follow your racing line, and it is the higher categories' responsibility to lap cleanly. Did Valtteri Landa responsibly lap cleanly? No.
I agree with everything you said, but I'm also going to put it maybe slightly differently to how you've just put it, which is that Valtteri Landa ran as normal through that corner. Right? He expected that the GT3 car was going to give him space and that the GT3 car was going to compromise itself so that Valtteri Landa would not have to compromise himself. It's the same thing that you have when you race in a multi-class race with touring cars. You have to understand the nature of the slower class vehicles so that you can pass in the most efficient way. It means that the other car doesn't lose too much time. It means you lose the least time possible as well. It's about recognizing that traffic is a compromise. GT3 cars, yes, they have a lot of aerodynamics, but at their core, they are still big, bulky behemoths.
Yep.
And once the car is committed to the kink, the car is committed to the kink. There is no altering the line. There's no lifting off the throttle and saying, okay, I'll run it a little bit tighter. If you try doing that, you're going to half spin the car and you're going to end up in a whole world more trouble. So,
or understeer. Or go wider. It's like, great, cool.
The reality is here, it's on Valtteri, who's, I think for the first time, we've seen him a lot in GT3 cars in multi-class traffic. We haven't really seen him be the faster class so much. He's just having to understand and go through the reps. You can't sit in a classroom and learn how to work through traffic, just like you can't sit in a classroom and truly learn how to fly an F-16. You've got to get up there in the sky.
I will say, thankfully in this kind of scenario, that there is one person that has paid the price for that, and that was Valtteri Landa.
The right person.
Right, which is fine. Unlike, for example, the Josh Ladd one we had earlier, where it was actually BS Competition that paid the price. It was BS Competition, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah, they paid the price for Josh Ladd. It was like, then Josh Ladd got a penalty, fair enough. But like, if you're ever going to have it, and then it's the prototype that goes off, then it's kind of like, yeah, cool, it's the prototype's fault. So yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, well, we got some more things to pick apart, Lewis, and I think you can tell from the sound of my voice that I'm not too excited about some of it.
Oh, good.
Pash Gergis in the VRS Coanda car is part of it, I think. But let's start by going back to the banking. You can see where we're going by this Impulse Racing off stage left, PGZ trying to work.
Yep, instantly this is not a good idea.
Yep, and it's Victor Miranda in the Texaco Racing by TK entry that then comes back up. And even though he disappears, trying to stay out of harm's way, poor Pash Gergis could do nothing.
No, you can see the car coming, he tries to avoid. Like I say, I will say at this point, when you're all not perfectly in line, bump drafting's already a bad idea. You know.
There's not much Pash can do.
There's not much. There is not much that car. I mean, I've got to say, there's not much the other car can do as well. You can see how much they're holding onto the brakes. And when you hold onto the brakes when you're sliding out, you typically go in a straight line. But then when you've got the banking and whatnot, you kind of move over all the place. Going at that high speed, you've got such a narrow window to react. That is extremely, extremely unfortunate.
Let's see if we can. I want to get a better understanding of what actually happens, though, here. So let's jump on board with the Altus Esports car. I think this is Carlos Fenalosa behind the wheel. Yeah, it's all just a bit clumsy more than anything. It's hard to say it's anyone's fault in particular, if we can also just be a bit fair.
I agree. I agree. It's not. If I were like race control trying to nail that one down, I would have a very hard time being like, who's actually at fault. I mean, like, you're playing a risky game when you're that close, but that kind of unpredictable to each other. And at that point, especially if you're at third car, just lift off. Save that extra little bit of fuel because you're not going to gain any more time. You're going into a braking zone as well. Just lift off. Give the couple of cars ahead some space so they can kind of back off. The problem is when you've got 3 cars that are that close, the third car is so close to the second car that's so close to the first car that then all those cars, like for the first car to get onto the brakes, the third car has to get onto the brakes first, then the second to give the space for the first car to get onto the brakes. And the moment that none of those things are lining up, if the first car wants to get onto the brakes early, they cannot, because it will be into the path of everyone else. You're asking for trouble.
I must say, Lewis, we had to wait a month or so before we were back in the virtual commentary booth for some BMW action.
Too much.
It's been a long time. Unfortunately, the only thing I'm disappointed about is the fact that I got to deal with you again for another year.
Yeah, well, not for every weekend, thankfully. You get a couple off. You're not quite like Luke Crane, who almost, despite all the issues yesterday, basically has to deal with me for 4 consecutive weekends. The poor guy.
Poor guy, man.
2 in person as well.
Oh, poor guy.
Literally the worst.
Yeah. Confirmation as well, by the way, that the Apex Racing 15-second penalty is not going to matter. Still looks like it will be a 1 and 2 pretty handily for Apex right now, with Michael Liani still leading over Maxence Godino, the 99 behind the 98, and of course it's the 99 that will get the 15-second penalty come the drop of the checkered flag, courtesy of its involvement in the retiring of Rainer Talvar in that BS competition car. I said retiring. Who's still out there on track? It is Rainer Talvar.
How many laps down?
He's, 43 laps down from his race leader?
I was going to say, they've gone... I was absolutely sure that car had retired, so they've gone back out again.
They do get a fast repair in this series.
Yeah, but then why wouldn't you have taken it earlier?
Yeah, because they did spend 76 minutes in the pit lane.
So I mean, I don't blame them. Like, that is not me like blaming them for it, because I can understand that level of frustration, because they would have put in so much work and to be spun around. You effectively can't win the race from that point.
Hey, just to clarify as well, that's in seconds. So if you do 4,604 divided by 60, you'll get the number of minutes that they spent in the pit lane itself.
So, yeah, 3,600 is
an hour.
Is an hour. So they're already 1,000 seconds over.
Oh, you know what? Probably who would Rainer have been teamed up with? That's the question. Probably Phil Denez, you'd have to assume, right?
Oh, they don't want to lose as much, like, Saturate or iRacing.
Well, no, maybe they just told Phil, you know what, it's too early in the morning for you, go sleep. Because, yes, for Phil Denez, the race session, so when the practice for this race would have started, it would have been 5 a.m. 5:30 is qualifying.
That's not early.
It's not that bad. I mean, I was up at 2:15 yesterday and then had the race red flagged. I was not happy. I was not impressed with that.
Did you go back to bed, though?
No.
Exactly. No sympathy.
Yeah. Well, I decided to focus my efforts on that other German manufacturer. Actually,
how did that go?
We started by focusing on a certain Italian manufacturer. If Lego is listening, by the way, we need some Lego models of either the GT3 or this car, or this LMDH, please.
They're not going to be happy that you called them Lego.
Lego Group, is that what I meant to call them?
Yeah.
Am I really?
Yeah, no, genuinely, there is a book downstairs that I was handed a year ago that's all the do's and don'ts with the Lego Group.
I find
you can't call something like, if you're talking about one of those Lego Porsches, you can't say, oh, that Lego Porsche.
No, it's the Lego Technic Porsche 911.
You've got to call it a Lego Technic. Yeah, you can't. It's like, no. There's lots of ifs and buts. And also, they want you not to swear on broadcast, which is...
difficult for some,
Very
apparently.
difficult. Very difficult. Difficult for me.
I will say, I very much enjoyed my experience building the Lego Technic BMW M1000RR.
Nice.
I think I got everyone happy there, both BMW and Lego, for saying everything properly. That, of course, is the BMW bike. Just under 2,000 pieces. Really, really, it's sitting right next to me, to be honest.
I've played with it, but I've not built it. And played with it, I do literally mean as you would do if you were a 7-year-old child.
Oh, I mean, here's the thing. When you're young, you want to build all these Legos, but you don't have the money to build them. Then when you get old, you have the money hopefully.
But not the time.
To build, yeah, exactly, to build some of these Legos, but not the time. So yesterday, after we had that race red flagged, I literally sat down and finished a Lego kit that had been sitting untouched since August of last year.
Dear.
Yeah, it was not the best. Penalty has come down, by the way, for what we saw that retired Pash Gergis via the Texaco Racing by TK entry. A 10-second penalty for Logitech Altus Esports. It's not Logitech Altus Esports, it's Altus Esports.
Whoa, that's my move. Get off of it. Yeah. I mean, like I say, that one's so tricky to pull apart. I'm not going to disagree with race control on that one. I wouldn't want to anyway, because I want a job. Not in race control.
Yes, no.
Yeah, we've got too many links. Too many links that way with race control. They'll be furious if we start throwing them under the bus.
Yeah, no. Hugo Luis, Paul Smith, Randy Cheneth, you're doing a great job. Just don't ask us to come do your job.
No.
I've been told as well in chat that it's technically the Lego Technic BMW M1000 RR. So you don't, yeah.
There we go. Get your facts right.
Yeah,
Gino.
but I mean,
that's why you didn't win the second VCA series.
So you mean now I'm guaranteed it this year? Got it. Okay, good. We've got a very nice new BMW. We have a new GT4 BMW as well.
Love a Lego Technic of the BMW M hybrid.
I know.
Love it.
Someone please heed our words. Battle for the lead, although it's not really a battle for the lead because we know we've got a 10-second time penalty for Ate Kalpinen in the Williams Esports car, and he's going to chop down below the yellow line.
Eesh.
That's going to stir up some more controversy. I have no doubt about that one, but he hit the front with 25 minutes to go and will now try and build, I guess, a 10-second time penalty.
When are you allowed to go below the double yellow line?
Final lap of the race.
Exactly, and we are not there yet. So pump the brakes, lads.
Oh, okay. Don't worry, Lewis. We don't. I won't have to deal with you for the entirety of the season because Paul Smith has generously volunteered to leave race control and join me in the broadcast booth, so you can switch over in the reverse direction.
Oh, and I can go into the.
Yeah, you can do race control.
Absolutely not. I've said before, I have done. Genuinely in sim racing, in the last 10 years, I've probably done every role in sim racing at least once, and race control is the one that I would least like to do again.
It's also the one
that
does not get paid that frequently in most series, and when they do get paid, they don't get truly recognized for what they do and the amount of stick that they often take for doing their jobs. This
is the thing, is that, like, race control is a thankless task. Even if you're very good at what you do, and yeah, I'm not going to start naming names as to who's good at what they do because I want to be like, no, well, actually, they gave me a penalty for. It's like I literally don't care. I don't care. Race control, regardless of the season, and honestly, regardless of whether you disagree with them or not, they always do a very good job to at least their own degree, and it is a thankless task where even if you do a good job or a bad job or whatever, it doesn't matter because as soon as you open up Discord, literally everyone and their dog disagrees with you. So it's it's not a job that you'd want because you just all you're doing sit there doing penalties, being like, yeah, that's the right call, and then as soon as you send it out, you sat there thinking like, are they gonna agree?
I saw a really good comment.
You can't think about that.
Yeah, no, I saw a really good comment from someone running a series. Niels Naujoks, in fact, who's now getting experience of not just being a driver, but an event organizer as well, that described it the best. Race control, the stewards, the organization, however you want to describe it, they are the legislator.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm struggling with my words. Judge and jury in the case of most racing series. Yep. It's not for the drivers to interpret the rulebook and then know the intentions of the race control while organizing it, as much as it is the job of the teams to understand the rulebook as much as possible. If teams and drivers disagree with what race control says, that's fair enough, and constructive conversations can help improve the rulebook and improve what drivers want from race control, which I think is also important. Different drivers have different expectations for what race control is going to be doing. But the reality is that a driver, if they're frustrated with race control, is free not to enter the next round, which is always going to be a shame. But if you're frustrated with the system and you're not willing to give the type of feedback needed to actually improve the system, you're kind of stuck in a bind.
Yeah. I trust me, I've had my fair share of disagreements with race control.
Me too.
And you know, there are a couple of championships where And again, I'm going to name names on those as well, but like elsewhere in sim racing, there's a couple of championships that I will not race in again because I completely disagree with how they do race control. I don't have anything against the championship, and I wouldn't recommend people not race there because go for it, fill your boots, go enjoy, go race, whatever. I just don't want to race there because it's like I am the person to disagree. There are plenty of people on that grid that don't disagree with race control.
Yeah, and exactly.
If they enjoy it, go for it. I just don't think the way that something's done. And like I say, there is room in sim racing for all of these, for championships that you do agree with, that you don't agree with, for stuff that you kind of impartial to. It doesn't matter. There is room in sim racing for all of it. And if you don't agree with everything, then here's a tip: make your own championship.
Oh, yeah, I did that. And then learned exactly how difficult it was.
Yep, I'd been in sim racing for a year, and then we decided to make our own championship, which did go very well actually. Our championship was a roaring success in that little circle we were a part of. But throughout that, I almost wanted to throw myself in front of a bus, and so I thought, let's not do that because it's just hard work, and it's thankless work, and it is. Unrewarded.
Oh, we've had the Apex Racing Team duo from the front of the field, involved with Race Clutch and Enric Andre. The two-stop call was expected to be a race-winning call for the Apex Racing Team, but now they're in the grass and looking to try and get pointed back in the right direction. No. Here comes Diogo Pinto, and here comes Alexei Nesov, more crucially, looking for the race lead.
Yeah, but obviously this red line car's got a 10-second time penalty over its head, but it's disaster for the Apex Racing Team. We said it earlier, it was a guaranteed victory as long as they had the luck to go with it. Well, it seems as though they may well not. The 98 is the one without the penalty, so at the moment they are still hanging on to a genuine race lead, but drama with an hour and 40 minutes complete, 20 left to go on the clock. Apex Racing Team holding the advantage, at least for time in the race. But realistically speaking, nah. This is very open.
That left side of the 98 as well has significant scrapes and whatnot. So whatever happened, is there a lasting impact on the performance of the vehicle? Let's scroll back in time. And again, Enric Andre, I think that was Enric Andre to be fair. I don't know what he was thinking. The 98 could not really do much. You could see him locking the wheels down, trying to go in a straight line. But the reality is, another LMDH car has tried to go for a hole that never existed. To put it in context as well, Enric Andre almost hits him at the apex of the corner.
Yeah, and nice with Apex. Well, I'll throw that one in there. To be fair, with the 98 there, it would have been better for them. This is obviously hindsight is everything. If at this point they go, right, bang, throttle's down. The throttle is down. You go straight over as fast as you can, but obviously, yeah, hindsight's 2020. Comes straight out in front. That is unbelievably unfortunate for the Apex Racing Team. Can we ride on board with the 98?
I'm actually trying to ride on board with the Movano car if we can, because I'm more curious. There is the Movano car. I think we'll get a look with it here. You'll note on the right side as we come towards the bus stop, there is this yellow little thing. You got the 3, the 2, and then the yellow thing. And that's all mindless driving. So I'm going to throw Race Clutch and Enric Andre under the bus right now because
it was poor.
Yeah, and I think there needs to be a bigger conversation at some point about driving standards, not just a top split competition, but across of sim racing right now, because I'm getting to a point where things like that are more common than they should be. Let me dive hard. There we go. We got the name for it.
Thank you to Mark Custis, I think, if I remember correctly, for the name. That is what we're going. We're rolling with that one because that's exactly what that was. That was poor, very poor. Unfortunately, but like you say, I mean, those kind of things happen. It was just, it was about as unfortunate as it could get for the Apex Racing Team, courtesy of a very silly mistake. But, and I know, again, lots of people will disagree. Is that, well, they did actually get down to the apex, but it's like, yeah, but also no. Like it was just extremely dangerous to have tried that, and you've got to understand what you're fighting for in the race. And I know this is, kind of this is now where we get into almost like a class system, where it's not the case. But like you are talking about that, you are lapping the people that are leading the race. I know that shouldn't matter, but still, you've got to apply a little bit extra caution around them, because like they're leading in their class. They've done their way, you know, and you've now ruined that. Now, if I'm the Apex Race team, I'm furious, not only because you've cost us a 1-2, you've cost us money, actual money.
True. Right there you saw, by the way, that little yellow thing. Once you're past there, I mean, yeah. At that point,
no contact,
the GT3 has got to commit to the corner at that little yellow thing on the right-hand side. It is as simple as that. We'll grab another look at it, but I don't know what more we're really going to get from additional replays at this point, if I'm being completely honest. We know exactly what happened, and, well, we know the aftermath more significantly. Yeah.
Honestly, if I'm the Apex Racing team, I'm beyond furious. I'm so furious that the second this race is done, I don't even want to march down to race control. I don't even want to. The computer's getting turned off. I'm going to do something else. Like that would be the level of anger that I would have.
And I've seen someone compare trying to ask why I'm so furious about this compared to what happened with the Apex Racing team taking out BS Competition. I just wanted to point out, A, that was more of an innocuous racing incident. B, I brought up the fact that not only did it happen here at Daytona, it happened in the iRacing Daytona 24 at the start of the race as well. I'm not trying to give Apex a free pass there, but let's contextualize the difference here. One of them was fighting in class and fighting in a close fight, made a small mistake that just saw them run into the back of someone else. Another one has done something that they know they should not be doing regardless of the situation, but has done it in a situation where they were fighting for, whatever, 10th in class, and they've taken out the leaders, and like you say, Lewis, quite importantly, taken money out of their pockets.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like I say, it is what it is. Fair enough. It's happened now. We'll move on and we'll focus elsewhere. But yeah, that's obviously, yeah. When it comes to the penalty, I think it is the penalty that's just come through. It's a 15-second time penalty for Rick Young. I would say that is fair, because again, you penalise the incident, not the aftermath. Yeah, and that is fair. Right, because if we would have given a 15-second time penalty for that same thing against an LMDH versus a GT3 earlier for that incident, like it doesn't matter what position, the penalty still should remain the same. Of course it should, but then it's just like the frustration and the lack of logic is just much higher. And so yes, very, very irritating. Switches though for the race lead in the LMDH many a time. Ooh. Because Jonas Wallmeyer, Ate Kauppinen and Lorenzo all very, very close, as well as Lazar as well.
Yeah, and this is now technically a three-way fight for the lead, remember, although Williams and Obsidian maybe try to take each other out. 3 wide off the corner now. I'm not sure if Ate Kauppinen actually knows if he's got a 10-second penalty. Maybe someone needs to get the memo over to them, but it is very much the battle between Urano's 91 and 90 and then Obsidian's 24, with a full 10 seconds up the road to Williams Esports Razor, where Carl Jansen is behind the wheel of the 15. For Kauppinen, you just stay out of trouble and see if the other 3 trip up over themselves, because you never know.
Very likely.
We were saying the Apex Racing team were looking good for the victory. Not so good anymore.
Yeah, and like you say, if you're Ate Kauppinen, I mean, if you're being really honest, it doesn't really happen at this level very often. You can almost force them into a mistake by just staying that bit close. They have to question when they're going to lift out or anything like that. You just kind of keeping them under pressure to a certain degree. That's all you can really do at this point. Because like I say, you've got a penalty over your shoulder. Surely they've been told by this point. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be an interesting fight regardless, but like I say, with it being Urano 1 and 2, what can Pablo Lazar do about that grouping ahead?
Now we know Pedro Sanchez Albert's pedigree in this car continues to be up at the front, fighting with the best of the best. Started from VCO Pro Sim Infinity. It's going to be interesting to see how his teammate Pablo Lazar gets on. He's been put in a good spot, now has some weight on his shoulders. And thank you for joining us. Opening round of this BMW M SIM Cup, and it's had no shortage of drama, whether you're watching on RaceSpotTV or on the iRacing Esports Network. Do remember that we'll be back in, just over a month's time, March the 9th, when we return to the Sunshine State, although we will head over to the bumpy Sebring International Raceway, which saw a last lap physical pass for Phil Denez in the BS competition machine to get past Patrick Holtzman in the Team Redline Red car last year. we're going to be in for similar sorts of drama as well. You'll have to join us to find out. We are going to get drama, though, to the end in both of our classes, not just in the LMDH, where it is a 3-car fight like we mentioned, but Michael Yanni, now with the damage on his car, slowing him down and bringing him into the clutches of Alexei Nesov and Julian Kesselhut, will realize that the potential for the win is still on the cards, but by no means is this going to be easy.
Yeah, it's in a difficult position for quite a few, but as I say, 12 minutes on the clock. That's everyone's putting all their work now. You're in position, and you're sat there thinking, right, now what? How do we end this chess game? Where do we want to be? What are the cards that we have? Not normally a piece of using in chess cards, but that's fine. What is the state of affairs? And what can we actually do? Because this is the thing, is that, like, say for example, like I said, we said before with Attic Alpinen, you've got a penalty, or even in this battle here with Diogo Pinto, who has a penalty. You've got a penalty. So what's the best that you can do? And then play with those kind of cards. Because if the best you can do is, what is it, 15? Is it 10-second time penalty for red lines? 15? I can't remember. It's all written down somewhere in our little chat here. But let's say, for example, it's a 10-second time penalty. The best you can do is 5th, right? Okay, that's fine. Or worse, if it's 15 seconds, the best you can do is also 5th, but you have to make sure that you don't lose too much to the Tushek.eu esports car. At which point, you're now not thinking about battling for the lead or battling for the podium or even holding these people up. You want them to kind of do good lap times and get on with it, because it'll pull you away from that group. This is where the strategy really comes into it as to what you're fighting for as an individual. We'll have to wait and see, though, when it comes to those fights. But it's calmed down for a minute, finally.
It has, albeit momentarily, because we're into almost the final 10 minutes or something. Getting some messages from Valtteri Alander trying to plead his case for why that was not his fault. I will say, he's making some valid arguments, Lewis. We can talk about that more later because, well, Pablo Lazar has gone wide at turn number 1, and that's going to drop him out of contention for the race victory.
Yep, that's a big shame indeed to kind of have that one removed from that fight, but it now becomes... actually...
It's a Urano battle.
It's a Urano 1-2.
Oh, okay. Well, I think you're about to get a lot more infuriated.
Am I?
Yeah, by watching.
Is there another one into the
just wait. You know what's happening.
Oh, Ate Kalpinen, you haven't.
Yep, he's gone below the yellow line. And,
with a penalty.
Yep. Well, to be fair, I think this. It's a little bit on both of them, if I could be honest. But there's no logic. There's no rhyme or reason for what's been going on here today.
Like, yeah, why would... Okay, right, so you've got a penalty. You've gone below the double yellow to try and do it. They've covered you off going below the double yellow as well. And then they've got... Why?
There's no logic.
Yeah, this is infuriating. I say, Obsidian running in a really good spot. There's just absolutely no need to do that. And that's a Kalpinen with a penalty. You should know better.
Absolutely.
Like I said, and don't get me wrong, that is not me shifting all of the blame off of the Obsidian car and purely onto Williams, because they did their fair share in that as well. But that was very stupid. And if I'm Urano now, knowing that Williams have a penalty and all the silliness, let them take the lead. Just let them take the lead. Let them get on with it. They've got a penalty.
True. And Obsidian's had to come down. Now, did that give them... It did give them a meatball flag, so maybe there was something else, but I don't think there was. That is going to be Obsidian Racing out of the top 10 now. And once you've got one penalty from race control, if you're going to be invited back to the steward's office again, you can always assume the second visit is going to go worse than the first one.
Yep. Yeah, Ooh, well, we've had a contentious start to this season, Argina, and we've not even reached a checkered flag yet. So I'm pretty sure we've got to buckle in, because I think there's more on the horizon as the BS Turner car gets past the leaders in the GT3 category, or will do once they've departed the International Horseshoe. Apex just about hanging on to the race lead right now. Of course, Urano involved in that fight could well win both categories here, which would be a pretty handy start to the season. But but it's not a guarantee. BS competition are there in the big red machine, and I mean it could be the white, blue, and grey beating out all of the black and reds.
It could be.
Could.
Nicholas Maz in our RaceSpotTV YouTube chat, by the way. I think that this is quite pertinent. Of course, we had the HPD, the old open-wheel prototype, still available here on iRacing. The high-performance dive bomb is back, this time as a BMW. I think that's quite accurate for what we've seen here today.
Love high-performance dive bomb.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, no, it's... like, I mean... as I say, when it comes to the difference in speed, you don't really get that much more when it comes to multi-class stuff. Yeah, certainly not outside of Memeville than the LMDH versus GT3. It is an exceptionally large pace differential between the two. But, yeah, like I say, we do come across as quite frustrated in the commentary booth today, and I think that's fair, because we are, because the LMDH this is a quality field, right? This is not a joke. This field is extremely strong. There is a large amount of prize money on the table, and a lot of the drivers have been playing pretty silly, as Alexei Nesov will take over the race lead for Michael Yanni, and Diogo Pinto might well come through as well. But again, a penalty on the nose of the Team Redline car, and nearly another one as they chopped off the nose of the Apex Racing team, one of the race clutch cars, I believe, coming the way through in this fight. Just 6 minutes left to go.
Yeah, I don't think Michael Yanni is going to be able to do anything to hold the train even. It looks like the draft is really just swaying him down. Last time by was able to do a 44.9 comparing to a 44.6 for your race leader, new race leader Alexei Nesov, but he's going to be just relying on the 10-second time penalty for Diogo Pinto to bring him back up and onto the podium. I think you're right. It's fair to call out the fact that we are quite frustrated as well here, Lewis, but I mean, let's just open the door for some of our chats behind the scenes. This is definitely something that's been building. It's not just a reacting to the incidents that we have just seen here today. I even think back to Daytona, the 24 hours of Daytona here that we had a couple of weeks ago, and some of the moves made in the first hour, it was like people forgot that this was a 24-hour race and were thinking it was a 24-minute race. But we don't want to throw the blame onto any one team in particular, because you could go across the entirety of the sim racing universe and find dirt on everyone, including myself, and I'm sure on you as well, for things that we've done that are silly.
I've killed many a people in multi-class racing by being silly.
Yeah, and it's not just the top levels either. Even a little bit lower, we're seeing a lot of the behaviors trickling down. But at some point, enough is enough, and we're not going to really have much more to say. I'm getting word, by the way, that the second incident that saw the murdering of the Obsidian racing car is going to be probably adjudicated post-race, so that's one penalty you won't know about before the end of the checkered flag. But yeah, I think this is just us boiling over, and we've reached our breaking point.
No, absolutely, as Kesselhout down the inside of Diogo Pinto, looking to take over second in class. Already technically has second in class, but with 4 minutes left to go on the clock, just wants to get through the penalty-stricken Team Redline car. That's not going to let that one go just as yet, as the two Urano cars still trying to fend off Ate Kalpanen, and yet I'd still maintain that point. Let him go.
Yep, agree.
Bit of was that smoke coming through?
I think
there?
that was.
It was. Oh, it is?
It's the Door Esports LMDH, isn't it? It is. It's Jan Turdak, who's just, well, rather patiently waited, used his F3 box, so kudos to him there, but it has not been the easiest of days for a handful of teams, including for Door Esports. Let's check out what happened to them as they worked past the Tushuk Esports car through the kink of turn 3, and whoa!
Sure, that was scary. I mean, like I say, just complete misjudgment for the Dury sports car there, as getting past Team 7 and one of the Team PGZ cars, scooting their way around the outside into NASCAR 1 and 2. But yeah, the frustration comes to this just to clarify, but going back to it, it's why I've said every single time, if I have the choice between which category I'm going to be in this, whether I'm LMDH or GT3, I am LMDH every single day of the week, because when you're in LMDH, you actually have a choice as to how you lap everyone. In the GT3, you don't get a choice of how you're going to get lapped. And it's just, if they're going to lap you by dive bombing down the inside into the Le Mans bus stop, well, that's tough. You've got to deal with it. And I hate that.
2 and a bit minutes to go. Your race leaders coming out of NASCAR turn 4. They will get past, I think, the GT3s one more time.
which is going to take off a lap from that battle potentially, as they're going to go down to the apron to pass the side-by-side battle in that GT3 class. Alexei Nesov has been able to clear Diogo Pinto to the tune of about 0.8 of a second. I don't think we're in for a photo finish in the GT3 class, Lewis. It may be a photo finish effectively between the Urano teammates, though, at the very top of the field as they work through some more traffic.
That was very, very scary indeed. But alas, getting through it nicely. Just about, I kind of agree with where you're coming from there. But that was the Tushak.eu car. Jesse Jones getting past, and getting past pretty sketchily indeed. Riding on board with Ate Kalpinen. There is definitely going to be a drag race to the line between these lot. And all I'm saying is I'm hoping it's not going to be an incident, because that's one thing this group doesn't want, because you've got two teammates in here that are battling over the race victory, and you've got Ate Kalpinen for Williams Esports that are not battling for victory. They're just a part of the fight. Obviously, they're going to go for it on track because iRating, etc., 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 and all that kind of such. But still, when it comes to the actual championship, when it comes to the points being delivered out, it's one of the Altus cars going slow there over the left-hand side. There is only one more lap to decide who's going to be the victor. It's going to be a drag race from here. And the question is, who's going to be below the double yellow? And hopefully they don't tap the apron and cause an enormous crash. And I've seen that before.
They would have been managing their battery. They would be in deploy mode right now. Just want to say Urano's done a great job so far today. Next round, just remember, number plates, please.
Thank you. Yes, nice, nice. I like the line around that. That was good.
I got to break the yellow pad out. One
really,
more lap
to
go. The World Center of Racing hosts the first round of the BMW M SIM Cup, and it comes down to this. Urano leading in both the LMDHs and the GT3s. But it's going to be the question of which Urano machine at the front as we work into the International Horseshoe. It's Jonas Wohlmeier currently leading, Daniel Lorenzo behind him in second, and there are the GT3 leaders just up the road that these cars will have to navigate their way past.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be a fourth consecutive, at least 1-2 when it comes to the race results when we actually get done, depending on what happens between these three. Fourth consecutive 1-2 for the victor here at Daytona to kick off the season, but all three times previous it has been redline. Not the show today, that's for sure. It's all about Urano right now. They've picked up the pieces of everyone else. It's been brilliant for them in the LMDH category.
So we'll watch them canter around the traffic, but Alexei Nesov, half a second clear, I think has this time just enough of a gap, and now we'll get the tow from the GTP cars as well to just help him build the buffer maybe slightly more, as into the Le Mans chicane for the very final time in round one of the BMW M SIM Cup. It's the drag race. The hybrid spools up. Has Daniel Lorenzo got the run, or does Wohlmeier hold on?
Yeah, I'm not so sure. It's looking very good for the 91 at the front. The one's not got the speed, but obviously this is where it starts to build and build and build.
Daytona has been Team Redline's playground for 3 years of BMW competition. Today, Urano Esports breaks the streak. They'll come out on top in the LMDH class, with Jonas Wohlmeier taking the very first victory in the prototype class of a BMW Virtual Motorsport competition. And behind them, the GT3 cars. We'll see Alexei Nesov and Urano take the double victory across the line. An immense day for Team Urano in what was chaotic. They emerged through the smoke, through the carnage, on top across our two classes.
There's a few grand they've taken today. That won't go down too badly for the Urano camp. Like I say, a 1-2 in LMDH, a victory in GT3. Sadly, the GT3s were so close to the LMDHs, we never really got to saw their finish properly. But again, very, very impressive. Williams Esports stayed out of that one, and again, another penalty potentially lingering over the head of the number one. They've already got a 15-second time penalty. It could promote the Williams Esports Razor car potentially onto the podium, if dependent on what happens with that second penalty. But of course that is one to be decided essentially another time.
In the stewards room is where that is also going to be decided.
So on the commentary booth, that's for sure.
Yeah, give Paul Smith and Randy Cheneth and Hugo Luis a bit of an extra bump in pay, because they're going to have to stay a bit longer to work through that one. We'll wait for the cars to come across the line, and we'll get the results up on screen for you. Tumultuous at times. We started with 55 cars. I think we only saw about 37 of them actually get to the end of the race. I think it just shows how chaotic these races are going to be over the course of 2022. Two classes of competition.
Three.
Two classes.
Oh no, you said 2022.
I did that. And we're in February already. Oh my word. Yeah, I'm still making that mistake when I write things down. Not a mistake, though, at the top of these results. The rest of them are going to shake around just a little bit, I think. But Jonas Wohlmeier does grab the victory over Daniel Lorenzo, championship points and money going to both of their pockets. While Williams Esports Razor, of course, did have a 10-second penalty lingering over them. That penalty would still leave them in third, but it's the second subsequent incident that will likely see Carl Janssen and Williams Esports Razor promoted to the podium. Pablo Lazar will, I think, provisionally end up in fourth, and then maybe we'll see Pure Sims and Obsidian Racing's number 9, and then BS Turner move their way on up. HS Racing Sniff, the departed Veloce drivers of Patrick Wolf and Sven Noller had to pit early but come across the line in 9th position. They'll be hoping to show more next time out at Sebring, while the Wave Italy Racing team rounds out the top 10. Peter Zuber in 11th for one of your race clutch entries. Difficult day for them across the board with Netrex Grand Prix, Riley Sim Racing Blue, Benzo Racing, SRC Movano, and then Maniti Racing 17. The 16 cars scored on the leading lap. 1 lap down, it's Aspar Team Esports BMW Sim Cup in the Arnage competition number 22. 2 laps down scored for Door Esports LMDH, had a spin late in the day, while Ilka Happel in the Orion Race Team number 46 never really got into the race. Race Clutch Blue, it wasn't Rick Yonk, it was Enric Andre that delivered maybe the biggest talking point of the day so far. Non-finishes include the Race Clutch Green, the Apex Racing 199, SRC Movano 369, John Bennett in the Race Clutch number 23, Hydro Race Geodetic Racing, and SRC Movano's number 25 machine. Over in the GT3, and for 75-80% of the race, we expected an Apex Racing Team 1 and 2. It was not to be. It will be Alexei Nesov that grabs the victory. Double victory for Urano Esports, while Diogo Pinto scored a second. Will drop down the order courtesy of a penalty to that number 20 machine. We'll see Julian Kessel rise to grab second spot after 2 other BS competition machines fought at the front but fell by the wayside. And then Michael Yanni will recover to grab the final step of the podium in the Apex Racing 98. 2-stop intended to work to give him a large margin of victory. It would have done if not for the contact that he had along with Maxence Godino after the tangle with Race Clutch's GTP car. Tushek.eu Esports on debut will grab a spot inside the top 6. They will not slide up courtesy of the penalty to Diogo Pinto, and so that will see Altus, Team PGZ, BS Competition, and Team 7 finishing 7th through 10th. 11th goes to the second of the PGZ entries, while ASR Abel in 12th. David Toth in the Arnage competition car 13th, with Apex Racing's number 97 14th. Did require an extra pit stop, slightly off kilter due to some incidents out on track. Arnage competition in the pink entry in 15th spot, Impulse, and then Valkyrie, rest of those cars scored on the lead lap. 1 lap down for Simona Maria Marceno, 3 laps down for Kira Wolf in the Zenith Esports number 51, while Pash Gurgis brings us to the graveyard of cars. VRS Coanda scored as 19 laps down, along with Victor Miranda for the Texaco Racing by TK entry, and then those that really did not get into the race. John Derrick admitted that maybe he made a slight mistake to Valtteri Olander that saw him taken out, but then the bench drivers, the BS competition, Team PGZ, Wave Italy, RAG, and Door entries, all not classified, not fulfilling the drive time regulation. So a nice look at our results after a tumultuous couple of hours, and we'll head straight down to our winners, where Lewis McLeod is standing by with the driver of the 91. He's got Jonas Wohlmeier on the line.
Yeah, hello, Jonas. Obviously coming across the line there as the victor. I mean, a super effort from you, obviously coming through and avoiding some of those dramas late on. What's it like racing in these cars when you come to the end of a race like this and the car behind you is your teammate? How does that kind of feel?
Yeah, what a race. Yeah, first of all, hello guys. Yeah, great victory for us. Yeah, it was intense because of the traffic. Sometimes you lose 1 second, then you gain 2 seconds, and in the end you never know how it plays out. And yeah, we worked a bit together in the end because we want to secure the double victory, and I really want to thank our 90 team because they played the team game, and I hope we can give something back the next races to them. Yeah, it was intense the last couple of laps with Williams and Obsidian catching up. Yeah, but in the end we made it. Yeah, we are happy.
And now to start off this this era, BMW M SIM Cup multi-class racing finally in this kind of competition. How difficult is it to kind of navigate those back markers? It looks incredibly difficult for quite a few in the LMDH category.
Yeah, the difference between the GT and the LMDH is quite big, especially in the bus stop. There you easily lose 1 or 2 seconds, and it's easy to just crash into someone. And I think we saw many incidents, but yeah, and you have to navigate with the traffic. We did that perfectly, especially Vlad. He put it on pole. That was really cool after 24-hour race. Yeah, it was good for him that he gained some confidence back. Then he did perfect start, navigating through the traffic. And the GT field is always so packed, so you need to see where you can overtake or not, and that's really just avoid the damage.
Well, cheers, Jonas. We'll let you have a bit of a breather. Great race.
Yeah, thank you.
And we'll make our way from Jonas Warmeyer, who was joined late into the broadcast booth by Vlad Kimanchev, so we won't get the chance to chat with him. Instead, we'll chat with the drivers in the GT3 class for Urano Esports, Luka Kita and Alexei Nesov, coming off their World Championship debuts yesterday into a very different type of a car. Luka, you had to take the start and navigate your way through what was a pretty intense portion of the race. Talk to us about how your stint went.
Yeah, my stint actually started good. I just wanted to avoid the fighting ahead and save my fuel. But suddenly, when the first traffic came, I lost the draft because of a really bad situation. And yeah, then the fuel struggle began. I had a lot of problems keeping up my fuel, like always, even in the last season. And yeah, that was just what I wanted to manage. I even dropped down a bit to the guys behind to get like the draft and the push on the straight for more saving. Yeah, so that's what I tried until the end of the pit stop. Yeah, at the end it was a little bit struggle to get into the box. Even there I had a small mistake, but in general I guess the situation was okay for that.
And Alexei, for you, you got into the car and it looked like the Apex duo were going to break away and run away at the front. What was going through your mind when you drove past the incident and then you realized that there was a chance for the victory, but you also now had to watch in the rearview mirrors?
Well, yeah, when I exited the pits, I was like in P13 or something. I thought, okay, well, maybe we can take a top 10 and I'll be happy with that, because not me or Luka, we didn't even touch this combo before this morning because we were fully practicing for Porsche. But yeah, then started to gaining positions, and the moment when we saw that leading to Apex collided, that was a surprise. But still was not over. We still had to catch one of their cars, so it was not easy. But yeah, the second stint for me went perfectly, I think. Nailed the fuel, was great with the draft, and yeah, it ended up in the win, which was not really expected, to be honest, from us.
Double victory as well. The lack of practice did not maybe show as much as he thought it did. Congratulations, guys. We'll see you in a month's time over at Sebring.
Thank you.
Luka Kita, Alexei Nesov jumping into the broadcast booth to have a bit of a chat with us. But Lewis, before we say goodbye, we'll unfortunately show everyone our faces for one final time.
Poor guys.
What a wonderful way to kick off a season. It's always great to land up at Daytona, this time with a lot more drama than we had 12 months ago.
Too much drama. Yeah, I think that's kind of the important thing. Obviously for Urano, they've come through it and done really well. Brilliant stuff. We love seeing that. We love seeing teams that are maybe the unexpected ones. I'm not saying that Urano are like that. I mean, anyone who's watched the VCO Pro Sim Infinities and VCO Infinity earlier on in the year will think, yeah, they're a very strong team. And anyway, in BMW competition as well, they've been very impressive. But realistically, I think that the main talking point that we're going to leave with the day isn't even what happened with Urano. It is all going to be about the LMDHs and their lapping of the GT3s, which, let's be honest, was poor at best. Hopefully, when we come back to Sebring, things will calm down, things will smoothen their way out, and we'll be able to bring you an even better show than what we had. Because let's be honest, we had plenty of drama. We just need to dial the drama back and have the great racing. Keep that, because Sebring was great last year as well.
It came down to the last lap as well, did Sebring last year. We mentioned it a couple of times today. We'll head over to the bumpy Sebring International Raceway on March the 9th. Again, the session starts at 1 p.m. UTC, and it's a race available to anyone. Lewis, we've, of course, seen and talked about our share of traffic today. Sebring is traffic management in a very different type of a way. And it's the type of track where we didn't see it much today, with drivers in the GTP, the LMDH class, locking up the rear tyres. I think at this surface, knowing how bumpy the braking zones are, that is very much going to be something to be concerned about.
Oh yeah, definitely. Sunset, Tower, corners like this, they're all very, very difficult coming around in this, particularly in the LMDH. It's a difficult circuit. It's one loved by many. It's kind of one of those ones that you look at it, you actually kind of watch racing around there, or even just watch a car go around, and you think there's nothing much to it. And then you drive it, and you think, wow, okay, there is something about racing around Sebring. Absolutely love it. Almost always makes a great race, and we'll keep our fingers crossed in a month's time that will be the case for us as well.
And of course then over to America's National Park of Speed, a trip over to Germany, albeit briefly, before we return to upstate New York, and then dally over to the Ardennes Mountain, work our way up to Fuji, back over to Brazelton, Georgia, just in time to land up there after Petit Le Mans. TBD. Very interested and curious to see what people think that round number 9 is going to be. And then, of course, just 2 weeks after the penultimate round of the championship, Lewis, we head to Suzuka. Like you mentioned at the very start of this event, Suzuka's a difficult place to close out a season. It's a difficult place to close out a championship, but it's a place where champions are crowned.
Yeah, a lot have done it, obviously, in Formula 1. I think it's 16 champions, something like that. Championship finales have gone down to Suzuka, obviously, over in that neck of the woods. Here, it's a great track to go racing at generally. It's normally one that causes drama, even if you're a Formula 1 world champion. I don't think he was at that point, with contact between himself and Josh Rogers. Remember that one down into turn 1? We've had our fair share of dramas in this competition there, and I think when it comes to a championship rivalry towards the end, we'll have to deal with that in the near future, but I'm sure we'll get our fair share of drama there.
It's still a long way to go before we have to worry about the championship itself, but the journey has started, and we'll be on this road until November the 19th when we bring the 2023 BMW M SIM Cup to an end. For now, though, from the Sunshine State, thank you for joining us on iRacing's esports network as well as on RaceSpotTV. What a show we had. My name is Arjuna Kankipati, alongside with Lewis McLean, and we'll be back in a month's time to work you through the madness at the Sebring International Raceway. For now, it's Urano that break the stranglehold of Redline at Daytona. What more do we have in store for you this year? A lot of racing action, and it's all exclusively live on RaceSpotTV and the iRacing Esports Network. For now, so long and goodbye. We'll see you from Sebring to round off and continue the BMW M SIM Cup for 2023.